When I turned 18 and left the orphanage, the first thing my teacher advised me to do was go see a notary and ask about any inheritance I might have. But when I went and asked if anyone had left me anything, his answer left me speechless. I'll never forget the morning of June 18, 2023. Not just because it was my 18th birthday, though that mattered too. At Phoenix Orphanage number 7, birthdays were always low-key. A shared table in the dining hall, a pie from the nearest bakery, a routine greeting from the caregivers. But turning 18 was different. That day you stopped being a ward and became a graduate. A free person, as our deputy head, Norma, liked to say, though there was always a bitter irony in her voice. I stood in the director's office, clutching a folder of documents, my passport, birth certificate, school records, and a referral to a college dorm. The standard set for an orphanage graduate. Victoria, the director, a woman in her 50s with tired eyes and a kind face, looked at me over her glasses. "Are you ready, Barbara?" she asked, and I nodded automatically, even though I didn't feel ready at all. Outside, the city buzzed, a strange and intimidating place. I'd spent 18 years within these walls, and now I had to step into a world I only knew from books and rare field trips. I had a spot in the dorm, a college scholarship, and some initial government support. By orphanage standards, I was lucky. Many left with far less. "Barbara, wait," a familiar voice called as I headed for the door. It was Malcolm Brackett, our history teacher. A short, slightly stocky man, around 45, with thinning hair and sharp brown eyes behind thick glasses. The kids at the orphanage liked him. He was one of those rare teachers who saw personalities, not problems. Malcolm walked quickly over, glanced around like he wanted to make sure no one was listening, and lowered his voice. "Barbara, I have some advice for you. It might sound strange, but hear me out. Go to a notary, any notary in the city. Ask if anyone left you an inheritance." I stared at him in surprise. An inheritance? For me? I had no one. My file said my mother died in childbirth, my father was unknown. No relatives had ever been found. "Malcolm, I don't have any family. Who would leave me anything?" He shook his head, and for a moment, there was something like regret, or maybe guilt, in his eyes. "Just go, Barbara. Promise me. It's important. The address of the nearest notary is in the directory on the first floor. Florence Chase, she's a good specialist." With that, he turned and left quickly, leaving me utterly confused. I watched him go, trying to make sense of it. Malcolm never gave empty advice. If he said I should go to a notary, there had to be a reason. The dorm I was assigned to was on the other side of the city. An old 5-story gray building, with peeling plaster and broken asphalt in the yard. The room on the 3rd floor I would share with 2 other girls, about 8 square meters per person, a shared kitchen and bathroom on the floor. But it was mine. The first place I could call my own. My roommates were students at a medical college. Bernice, a plump girl from a small mountain town, and Christina, a skinny blonde from some village. Both were 2 years older than me. They met me cautiously but not hostilely. Orphanage kids weren't popular, they were considered troubled. But these girls seemed normal. "From the orphanage, huh?" Bernice asked while I unpacked my few belongings in the assigned locker. Yes, I nodded, expecting the usual reaction, a mix of pity and distaste. But Bernice just shrugged. "Last year, we had a girl from an orphanage too. She was fine, just left after 6 months. Said she found relatives." "Lucky her," Christina said, without looking up from her anatomy textbook. I stayed silent. Relatives. In 18 years, not a single person had come to say I mattered to them. Only the yearly standard letter from the guardianship office saying they were still looking, but with no results. And then even those letters stopped. That evening, lying on the hard bed and listening to Bernice's snoring, I thought about Malcolm's words. Inheritance. The word sounded foreign, unreal. I'd never had anything of my own except a few books and an old player gifted by a caregiver on my 16th birthday. And now, suddenly, an inheritance. The next morning, instead of going to college to handle paperwork, I went to the address I'd copied from the directory. Chase Notary office was downtown, in an old Victorian house converted into offices. A beautiful building with stucco decorations and wrought iron grills on the first floor windows. I stood at the entrance for a long time, gathering courage. What would I say? Hello, I'm from the orphanage. My teacher said I might have an inheritance. It sounded ridiculous. But there was no turning back. I was already there and had spent money on the trip. In the reception area, a woman in her 30s with neatly styled hair and a formal suit looked up at me with a questioning expression. Do you have an appointment? No, I need to ask about an inheritance. Is that possible? The woman frowned. You need to book a consultation. The next available slot is in a week. A week? I didn't have a week. Classes started in 3 days. I had to get settled and deal with a million practical things. Please, it's very important. I just need to know if there's anything in my name. I'm from an orphanage. I turned 18 yesterday. Something in my voice, or in my words, softened her. She looked at me more closely, noticing my worn clothes, cheap bag, and nervously clenched hands. What's your name? Barbara Mercer. Wait a minute. She stood and disappeared behind the door marked Florence Chase. I stayed in the reception area, feeling completely out of place. Leather chairs, paintings on the walls, the smell of expensive perfume. Everything here screamed wealth and status, things I had never had and never would. A few minutes later, the door opened, and the secretary motioned me inside. Behind a massive desk sat a woman of about 55. Her gray hair was pulled into an elegant bun, she wore a strict dark gray suit, and had almost no jewelry. Florence Chase, as I soon realized. Have a seat, Barbara, she said, pointing to the chair across from her. I sat down, trying to keep my back straight. First impressions matter, we were taught at the orphanage. My assistant told me you're interested in a possible inheritance? Yes. My teacher, Malcolm Brackett, advised me to come. I just graduated from orphanage number 7 yesterday. At the mention of Malcolm's name, a flicker of recognition passed across the notary's eyes. Malcolm. Yes, I remember him. A good man. If he sent you here, there must be a reason. Let's check. Your full details? Date of birth, place of birth? I gave her everything I knew about myself. Not much, to be honest. Born in Phoenix. Mother, Lily Mercer, died in childbirth. Father not listed on the birth certificate. Florence searched through the computer for a long time, frowning occasionally. Then she stood, walked to a safe in the corner, pulled out a folder, returned to the desk, opened it, and scanned the documents. Finally, she looked up at me with a mixture of surprise and something like admiration. Barbara, you really do have an inheritance. And a substantial one at that. I felt the room tilt around me. Inheritance. Substantial. The words wouldn't sink in. But from whom? I have no relatives. Florence glanced back at the documents. The benefactor is Earl Paxton. He passed away 3 years ago. In his will, you are listed as the sole heir. Paxton? I had never heard that name. Who was this man? I don't know any Paxton. Are you sure there's no mistake? No mistake. Here, see for yourself. She turned the document toward me. A will, written 5 years ago. My name, surname, date of birth, all correct. And the signature, Earl Paxton. According to the will, you are entitled to $3 million and a 3-bedroom apartment in Central Phoenix. $3 million. A 3-bedroom apartment. The numbers danced in front of my eyes, refusing to form a coherent picture. That was a fortune, more than I could earn in a lifetime. Why? Why am I only finding out now? You said he died 3 years ago. Florence sighed. According to the will, you were to receive the inheritance when you reached adulthood. Until then, the estate was managed by a trustee. By the way, that trustee is the same Malcolm Brackett who sent you here. Malcolm? Our history teacher was the trustee? He had known all along and kept quiet. He couldn't tell you earlier. That was the condition. No contact until you turned 18, except for overseeing your welfare. Overseeing. So all these years, when Malcolm paid me special attention, helped with studies, supported me in hard times, it wasn't just kindness. It was his duty. Seeing my state, Florence poured some water from the carafe on the desk and handed me a glass. Drink. I understand this is a shock. But believe me, Malcolm genuinely cared about you. I've met him several times about the inheritance. He was deeply concerned that he couldn't tell you the truth. I took a few sips. And this Paxton? Who is he? Why did he leave me an inheritance? I'm afraid I don't know. The will gives no explanation. Only instructions about the property and the terms of transfer. Maybe Malcolm knows more. I needed time to process everything. $3 million. For a girl from an orphanage, it felt like a fairy tale. I could study at any university without worrying about a scholarship. Buy proper clothes, food, books. Live, not just survive. What do I need to do to claim the inheritance? Florence smiled for the first time during our meeting. Gather some documents and come back to me. Here's the list. You already have some of these, the rest can be obtained in a few days. You'll also need to open a bank account for the transfer of funds. She handed me a sheet with a list. I skimmed it. Nothing difficult, but it would take time and a little money for fees. I have 3 months to claim the inheritance from the day I turned 18. That's enough time. But I'd advise you not to delay. Also, Barbara, I should warn you, once the inheritance becomes known, there may be people claiming a share. Distant relatives, creditors, if any exist. Be careful. I nodded, though her words felt distant from reality. What relatives? What creditors? I didn't know anyone. I left the office in a daze. The city around me felt unreal, like a stage set. People hurried about their business, unaware that a girl from the orphanage had suddenly become a millionaire. It was strange, unbelievable. The first thing I decided to do was find Malcolm. I needed answers. Who was Earl Paxton? Why did he leave me an inheritance? How was Malcolm involved in all this? But at the orphanage, they said Malcolm had taken a 2-week vacation. Gone somewhere. They wouldn't give me his phone number, citing privacy rules. I had to wait. Back in the dorm, I tried to find information about Earl Paxton online. But search engines returned hundreds of people with that name. Without more details, age, profession, city, it was impossible to find the right one. That evening, lying on the bed, I thought about how my life was going to change. I wouldn't have to pinch every penny anymore. I wouldn't have to wear clothes from charity. I wouldn't have to be ashamed of where I came from. I would have my own apartment. A real home, not a dorm bed. But along with the joy came anxiety. Florence had warned me about possible problems, and I wasn't ready for them. 18 years in an orphanage hadn't taught me how to read people, how to tell sincerity from self-interest. The next day I started gathering documents at the passport office, the guardianship agency, the orphanage. People looked at me with surprise everywhere. An inheritance? For an orphan? But they issued the papers without problems. By evening my head ached from running around and nerves. I sat in a small cafe near the dorm, drinking cheap tea and sorting the papers I'd collected. All that was left was to open a bank account and get a couple more certificates. At the next table 2 women were talking animatedly. I wasn't eavesdropping on purpose, but one phrase made me sit up. They say the Paxton family is fighting again. Now over Earl's apartment. His younger brother is claiming it, even though Earl hadn't let him through the door for years. Paxton. Earl. That couldn't be a coincidence. Excuse me, I said, moving closer to their table. I overheard, were you talking about Earl Paxton? The women glanced at each other in surprise. One, a plump lady of about 50 with bright lipstick, squinted at me. And what business is it of yours? I think he's my relative. Distant. I'm trying to find information about him. A relative? The woman looked me up and down skeptically. Earl Paxton didn't have relatives, except a brother. And that brother's a scoundrel. You'd be better off without him. Please, tell me what you know. It's very important to me. The women exchanged looks. Then the plump one shrugged. What's there to tell? Earl Paxton lived here. He was rich, had his own business. A construction company, big one. Built houses, office centers. A millionaire, basically. His personal life was a mess, though. His wife died young, no children. For the last years he lived alone in his downtown apartment. A huge place, they say. How did he die? The other woman, a thin blonde of about 40, sighed. Cancer. Burned out fast. 6 months from diagnosis to death. Toward the end they moved him to hospice. That's where he died. And his brother, Lance, as soon as he heard, immediately came forward for the inheritance. But here's the trouble, Earl left a will, and it wasn't for him. He left everything to someone else. Lance is still in court trying to contest the will. I felt cold. So Earl Paxton had a brother who would claim the inheritance left to me. Do you know who he left it to? I asked. The women shook their heads. That's a secret. The notary won't say, of course. But Lance screams everywhere that he'll find out and take what's his. He's a scandalous guy. When Earl was sick, Lance came around demanding money. Earl threw him out. Even called the police a couple of times. I thanked the women for the information and hurried away. My head was spinning. Lance Paxton, brother of the benefactor, who would be after my inheritance. And based on what they said, not a pleasant man. I came back to the dorm late. My roommates were already asleep. I quietly undressed and lay down, but sleep wouldn't come. My mind kept turning over thoughts about Earl Paxton, his brother, the will. Why would a successful businessman leave everything to a stranger from an orphanage? What connected us? In the morning my phone rang. An unknown number. Hello, Barbara Mercer? A man's voice, low and hoarse. Yes, that's me. My name is Lance Paxton. I think you know who I am. My heart lurched. Earl Paxton's brother. How did he know? How did he find my number? We need to meet, he continued, to discuss an important matter regarding my brother's estate. I don't think there's anything for us to discuss. There is, believe me. I know who you are. I know why Earl left you the money. And if you're smart, you'll agree to meet. Otherwise, that information might become public. And I doubt you'd like that. What information? What was he talking about? The Grand Cafe. Today at 3. Don't be late. He hung up without waiting for an answer. I sat on the bed, gripping the phone, feeling panic rising. What did Lance Paxton know? What could he make public? And why was he so sure I wouldn't like it? 4 hours until 3. I tried to keep busy. I went to the bank, opened an account, got another certificate. But my thoughts kept returning to the meeting. The Grand turned out to be an expensive place downtown. I felt out of place in my worn clothes among well-dressed patrons. I recognized Lance Paxton immediately. A big man around 50 with a receding hairline and a heavy expression. He sat at a corner table drinking coffee. When he saw me, he nodded toward the chair opposite. Sit. I sat, trying to look confident though I was shaking inside. So you're the girl my brother left millions to, he began bluntly. Interesting. I thought he might have taken up with some young mistress. But a girl from an orphanage. There was contempt in his voice, and I felt anger rise. If you called me here just to insult me, I'll leave. Sit, he barked, and I flinched. I have a proposal for you that's beneficial to both of us. I stayed silent, waiting for him to continue. You give up the inheritance in my favor as the deceased's only relative, and I pay you a settlement. $200,000. Cash. Today, $200,000. That was a huge amount for me. But compared to $3 million and the apartment? No. Lance squinted. Don't be so quick to refuse. I have information that could make your life very complicated. What information? He pulled a folded sheet of paper from his pocket and placed it on the table. A copy of a birth certificate. My real birth certificate. I took the paper with trembling hands. The certificate was in the name Barbara Paxton. Father, Earl Paxton. Mother, Lily Mercer. This can't be, I whispered. Very much so. My brother had a fling with your mother, a poor student. She got pregnant, and he didn't want to marry her. He already had a fiancée from a good family. Your mother didn't survive the shame. She died in childbirth. And Earl, he put you in an orphanage, forged the documents so no one would find out. The room spun around me. Earl Paxton, my father. The man who abandoned me in the orphanage. Who stayed silent for 18 years, then left an inheritance. You're lying, I forced out. Lance smirked. Check it. I got copies of all the documents. I have friends in the archives. Everything checks out. Earl is your father, the one who abandoned you. And when they found his cancer, his conscience hit. He decided to make amends with money. I stared at the birth certificate, the letters blurring before my eyes. Barbara Paxton. Not Mercer. Paxton. Earl's daughter. Imagine what happens when people find out, Lance continued. A daughter abandoned in an orphanage. 18 years of silence. Then money to buy her off. Journalists would devour a story like that. You'd be famous. The abandoned daughter of a millionaire. Do you want that? I stayed silent. My mind felt empty. Father. I had a father. Alive, wealthy, successful. And he had known about me. Known and stayed silent. 18 years, $200,000, and you disappear, Lance repeated. Change your last name back to Mercer, leave the city. No one will ever know. You'll live in peace. And if I refuse? Then I go to court. Contest the will. A daughter can't inherit without proof of paternity. And the paternity was never officially recognized. There'll be tests, trials, press. Your whole life will become public. Are you ready for that? I stood up. My legs wobbled, but I forced myself to stand tall. I need time to think. 24 hours, Lance threw back. Same time tomorrow. And don't even think about disappearing. I'll find you. I left the cafe and wandered the streets for a long time, not paying attention to where I was going. Earl Paxton, my father. The thought pounded in my head like a hammer. A father who abandoned me. A father who could have taken me from the orphanage at any moment, but didn't. That evening I went to the notary again. Florence saw my state and let me in without waiting. Is it true? I asked, placing a copy of the birth certificate in front of her. Earl Paxton is my father? She studied the document for a long time, then looked at me. I am not allowed to disclose information about the benefactor. But there's a note in the will. If you ask directly, I must answer. Yes, Earl Paxton is your biological father. I covered my face with my hands. It was too much. Too painful, too frightening, too confusing. Why? Why did he abandon me? Florence sighed. He left a letter. For you. But according to the will, you were only to receive it after claiming the inheritance. However, given the circumstances. She went to the safe again and pulled out an envelope. This is a breach, but I think you have the right to know. I took the envelope with shaking hands. It was labeled, Barbara. You can read it here if you want. I'll step out. Florence left me alone in the office. I stared at the envelope for a long time, afraid to open it. What could he have written? What excuses could he make? Finally, I opened it. Inside were several sheets filled with uneven handwriting. Barbara, my daughter. If you are reading this, I am already gone. And that means you are 18. Adult. Independent. I hope strong. I know you hate me. You have every right. I abandoned you. Sent you to an orphanage. Deprived you of family, home, love. There is no excuse for what I did. Your mother, Lily, was the brightest person in my life. We met when she was 19, I was 28. She studied philology, I was already building my business. She was beautiful, smart, kind. Completely out of my social circle. My parents opposed it. I had a fiancée, the daughter of my father's business partner. A wedding that suited everyone. And then Lily. Pregnant Lily. I was scared, Barbara. That's the only truth. I feared scandal, feared losing business, status. I offered Lily money for an abortion. She refused. Said she would give birth and raise the child herself. And then she died. In childbirth. Complications, bleeding. The doctors couldn't save her. And you remained. Small, helpless. My daughter. I could have taken you. I should have. But I chickened out again. By then my wife was pregnant. How could I explain a child on the side? How explain to my parents? Partners? I forged the papers so your father was unknown. Put you in an orphanage. And tried to forget. But I couldn't forget. I followed you all these years. Through Malcolm, who agreed to help. I knew how you studied, what you liked, what you dreamed of. And I hated myself more each year. When they diagnosed me, I realized it was payback. For cowardice, betrayal, for stealing your childhood. I had 6 months left. 6 months to at least fix what I could. I couldn't come to you. You wouldn't understand, wouldn't forgive. And you don't need a dying father appearing only at the end. But I could leave you everything I had. Money, apartment. It is not compensation for 18 years of loneliness. That cannot be compensated. But at least you can live decently. Study, work, be happy. Forgive me, if you can. Though I understand I don't deserve it. Your father, who never became one. Earl. Tears fell onto the letter, smudging the ink. Father. I had a father. A coward, a traitor, but a father. A man who loved my mother. Who had watched over me. Who died with guilt. I didn't know what to feel. Anger? Pity? Understanding? Everything swirled together into a lump in my throat. Florence returned half an hour later, when I had calmed down a little. What have you decided, Barbara? I don't know. His brother, Lance. He's threatening court, the press. Offering a payoff. Florence frowned. Lance Paxton is a notorious troublemaker. But legally, he has no grounds to contest the will. Yes, technically, paternity wasn't recognized. But the will is made out to a specific person. To you. And it's completely legal. But he could make it public. Cause a scandal. He could. But this is your story, Barbara. Your truth. You've done nothing wrong. You're a victim of circumstances. And if this story becomes known, maybe it's for the best. You won't have to hide or pretend. I thought about it. She was right. I hadn't done anything wrong. My father abandoned me. He should be ashamed, not me. I accept the inheritance, I said firmly. All of it. And I won't hide from anyone. Florence nodded approvingly. Good decision. I'll help you with all the paperwork. And if Lance Paxton tries anything, I have reliable lawyer friends. The next day, I met Lance again at the same cafe. He looked confident, almost triumphant. "Well, have you decided?" "Yes." My answer is no. I'm accepting my father's inheritance. All of it. He choked on his coffee. "Your father? You admit you're his daughter? Why should I hide it?" "Yes, Earl Paxton is my father, who abandoned me in an orphanage. And who tried to make up for it with money. That's my story, and I'm not ashamed of it." Lance turned red. "You'll regret this, girl. I'll make the whole country see what you are, an abandoned daughter who got money to stay quiet. That's your version. Mine is different. A girl from an orphanage who survived without a father. And who earned compensation for a stolen childhood." I stood up, slamming money for the coffee I hadn't even touched onto the table. "Goodbye, Uncle Lance. See you in court if you dare." I left the cafe feeling his gaze on my back. My heart raced, hands shook, but I walked straight, without looking back. I had made my choice. The following weeks were a whirlwind. Processing the inheritance, meetings with lawyers, running around offices. Lance did indeed sue, trying to contest the will. But Florence was right, he had no legal ground. The press took interest too. A few local newspapers wrote about it: the abandoned daughter of a millionaire, 18 years in an orphanage, unexpected inheritance. Strangely, public opinion was on my side. People sympathized with me and criticized Earl for abandoning his child. Malcolm returned from his vacation, and we finally met. He looked older, worn out. "Forgive me, Barbara. I should have told you earlier. But Earl made me promise." "You were his friend?" "We studied together at university. Life pulled us apart afterward. He became a businessman, I a teacher. But when he got sick, he found me. Asked me to watch over you. Not interfere, just be nearby. All these years you knew he was my father." "Yes. And it was the hardest thing. Watching you search for your parents. Hoping someone would come for you. And I stayed silent. You were following his wishes. I don't blame you. But I blame myself. I should have insisted he come to you. At least before he died. You had the right to know. Maybe. Or maybe it's better this way. I didn't have to see him dying. Didn't have to decide whether to forgive. He died with guilt, and I got a chance at a new life." Malcolm looked at me for a long time, then nodded. "You've grown wise, Barbara. Wiser than many adults. Orphanage teaches you. You either break or become stronger." A month later, I received all the documents for the inheritance. $3 million were transferred to my account. The keys to the apartment were in my pocket. I stood in front of the downtown apartment the women in the cafe had talked about. 4 rooms. Park view. Expensive furniture, paintings on the walls, a large library. And emptiness. No photos, no personal belongings. As if no one had lived here. I walked through the rooms, opening closets and drawers. In the bedroom, I found another folder of documents, legal and personal. Photos of my mother. Young, beautiful, laughing. Letters they wrote to each other. Short notes full of love. "Lily, my sunshine. Forgive me for yesterday. I was wrong. I love you. Earl. Earl, don't be angry. I understand your position. But I will have this child. Our child. And I will love him for both of us. Lily." And one more photo. A newborn. On the back, "Barbara, first day." He had kept all of this for years. Hidden it in the bedroom where no one could find it. Lived with it. With the memory of the woman he loved and the child he abandoned. I sat on the bed, looking at the photos. Mom. I had known so little about her. Only what was in my file. Lily Mercer, a philology student, died in childbirth. And it turned out she had been beautiful, joyful, loved, and loving. That evening, an unexpected visitor came to see me. A woman of about 50, elegant, well-groomed, wearing an expensive suit. "Barbara? I'm Jennifer Paxton, Earl's ex-wife." I froze in the doorway, unsure of what to say. His wife. The one he married instead of my mother. "May I come in?" "I won't take much time." I stepped aside silently, letting her pass. We went into the living room. Jennifer sat on the sofa. I took a chair opposite her. "I knew about you," she began without preamble. "Not from the start, but I found out. About 10 years ago. Earl got drunk once, the only time during our marriage. And he told me. About Lily, about you, about the orphanage." I stayed silent, unsure how to respond. I could have caused a scandal. Divorced. But we had a son. Frederick. He was 15 then, a difficult age. I didn't want to ruin his world. A son. I had a half-brother. Where is he now? In England. He went there to study 5 years ago and stayed. Works in IT. Well settled. I'm glad for him. And you? You live here? In Phoenix? I moved after Earl died. Too many memories here. Jennifer was quiet for a moment, studying me. You look like him. The same eyes, the same stubborn chin. When I saw your photo in the newspaper, I knew immediately. You really are his daughter. Excuse me, but why did you come? She smiled sadly, without malice. I wanted to see you. The girl my husband thought about all these years. You know, he often came near the orphanage. Stood across the street, watching you play in the yard. Malcolm sent him your photos, told him about your achievements. I didn't know. He didn't want you to know. Feared you wouldn't understand, would hate him even more. And you? Didn't you hate me? A child from another woman? Jennifer shook her head. At first, I was angry. At Earl, at your mother, even at you. But then I realized you didn't do anything wrong. You're a victim, just like me, in a way. Earl loved your mother. Truly loved her. And me? He respected me, cared for me, but didn't love me. We both knew it. She stood, walked to the window, and looked at the evening city. I came to tell you I don't hold a grudge. And that you deserve this inheritance. Earl wanted you to have it. That was important to him. The only thing he could do for you. Thank you. I don't know what else to say. You don't need to. Just live. Be happy. Earl would have wanted that. She headed for the door, then turned back. One more thing. Frederick doesn't know about you. I haven't told him. But if you ever want to meet, I won't mind. After all, you are brother and sister. With that, she left, leaving me completely stunned. A brother. I had a brother. In England. Who didn't know I existed. That night I couldn't sleep. So much had happened in the past weeks. From a nobody in an orphanage, I had become a millionaire's heir. I had learned the truth about my father, met his brother and his wife, and discovered the existence of a brother. I got up, went to the kitchen, and made some tea. The apartment was huge and unfamiliar. Every object reminded me of a person I didn't know. A father who both existed and didn't. On the table lay Jennifer's business card. She had left it for me. On the back was Frederick's email. In case I wanted to write, Frederick Paxton. My brother. What could I write to him? Hi, I'm your sister you never knew? Our father abandoned me in an orphanage, and now I inherited his millions? I opened the laptop I had bought recently, the first big purchase with my inheritance. I created a new email, typed Frederick's address, and froze, unsure what to write. Finally, I wrote simply, Hello, Frederick. My name is Barbara. I'm your sister. Mom gave me your contact. If you want to talk, I'd be glad. I sent it and immediately regretted it. What had I done? I was intruding into the life of someone who didn't know I existed. Maybe I shouldn't have. But the email was gone. No turning back. The following days I focused on setting up my new life. I submitted documents to the university. With my grades and money for tuition, there were no problems getting in. Law school. I wanted to understand the law so no one could ever deceive me again. I bought new clothes. Not expensive brands, just normal, clean, mine. I booked a hairdresser. For the first time in my life, I got a proper haircut, not just a trim. Lance Paxton continued trying to contest the will, but the court rejected his claim. He had no grounds. The will was properly written, naming me specifically. The fact that Earl was my father gave Lance no advantage. After the court, he approached me in the hallway. "This isn't over, girl. You stole what belongs to me." "I didn't steal anything. Earl decided who would inherit. If you were a bad brother, that's not my fault." He clenched his fists, and for a moment I thought he might hit me. But lawyers and other people were nearby. Lance turned and walked away, throwing over his shoulder. "You'll regret this." His threats no longer scared me. What could he do? Kill me? Unlikely. Spread rumors? Let him. The truth was already known, and I wasn't ashamed of it. A week later, Frederick replied. A short email. "Barbara, I'm in shock. Mom confirmed it's true. I need time to process. But I'm glad I have a sister. Write about yourself." I smiled reading it. Glad. He was glad he had a sister. Not angry, not accusing. Just glad. I wrote him a long letter. I told him about the orphanage, about discovering the truth, about the inheritance, about my plans for the future. He replied the next day, telling me about his life in England, his work, the girl he was dating. That was how our correspondence began, cautious, delicate, but warm. We got to know each other, finding common ground. It turned out we both loved reading, were interested in history, and even had similar taste in music. A month later, Frederick wrote that he would come. For 2 weeks. He wanted to meet, to get to know me in person. I was nervous, like before an exam. What if we didn't like each other? What if he thought I was an imposter who had stolen his father's inheritance? We met at the airport. I recognized him immediately. Tall, dark-haired, brown eyes. Resembling Earl, judging by the photos. And me. Our noses, our chins, similar. "Barbara," he asked hesitantly. I nodded, unable to speak. He stepped forward and awkwardly hugged me. "Hi, little sister." And I cried. Right there, in the airport, among hundreds of strangers. I cried from relief, joy, from everything that had built up over these months. Frederick was taken aback but didn't let go. Shoo. It's okay. I'm here." He took me to the apartment. Our apartment, as it turned out. "I grew up here," he said, looking around. "It's strange to see nothing has changed. Father didn't like change. You can take something if you want. Some keepsakes." Frederick shook his head. "No, it's yours now. Father wanted it that way. And you know, I think he was right. You deserved this more than I did. I had everything, the family, home, education. You had nothing. Not your fault, not mine. We were both victims of his choices. Only you suffered more." We talked a lot during those 2 weeks. About the past, the future, about our father. Frederick told me what Earl was like at home, strict, demanding, but fair. Rarely showed emotions, but Frederick knew his father loved him. He was often thoughtful, especially in the last years. Mom said he had depression. Now I understand why. He thought about you. About the daughter he abandoned. He was a weak man, Barbara. Not evil. Just weak. I know. I don't excuse him, but I don't judge either. There's no point now. Frederick left, but we kept in touch. He became the first real family I'd ever had. A brother I never had. The school year began. University was a whole new world. Not the college I had first been sent to. Here were smart, ambitious people. Professors who really knew their subject. I studied with passion. Law turned out to be fascinating. Laws, precedents, logic. I loved unraveling the twists and turns of legal rules. At first, classmates were cautious. Everyone had heard about the inheritance, the abandoned millionaire's daughter. Some were jealous, some sympathetic. But gradually, the attention faded, and people just saw me as Barbara, a good student, a little reserved, but kind. I became friends with Rachel, a girl from a small mountain town. She also lived in the dorm, though she could afford her own apartment. I want to experience college life, she said. We often studied together, went to the movies, to the theater. A normal student life, the one I had dreamed of in the orphanage. Then I met him. Matt Mansker. Not a student, not my age. A man of 35, a professor of legal philosophy. It happened in October, 4 months after I left the orphanage. I was late for a lecture, running down the hall with a stack of books, and collided with someone around a corner. Books scattered on the floor, I barely stayed on my feet. Sorry, I was in such a hurry, I said, picking up the fallen textbooks. It's okay, a calm male voice said. Let me help. I looked up and froze. A man with the most unusual eyes I had ever seen, gray-green with golden flecks. Dark hair slightly messy, a light stubble on his chin. Not handsome in the classic sense, but something about him made you stare. Are you a freshman? He asked, handing me the last book. Yes, law. Future fighter for justice, he smiled. I have a lecture with you next week. Legal philosophy. Matt Mansker. Barbara Mercer, I introduced myself, shaking his hand. His handshake was firm, confident. For a moment our eyes met, and I felt a strange flutter in my chest. Nice to meet you, Barbara. Beautiful name. Thank you. I have to get to my lecture. Of course, won't keep you. See you next week. I nodded and hurried on, cheeks burning. What was that? Why did my heart race from a simple conversation with a professor? I couldn't focus during the lecture. Those unusual eyes, that smile, kept appearing before me. Silly. I was 18, he was over 30. He was a professor, I was a student. There was a gulf between us. Rachel noticed. You're acting weird today. What's up? Nothing, just tired. But she didn't believe me. Rachel was very perceptive. You met someone, she said. Look at you. Spill. No, I didn't meet anyone. I just ran into a professor in the hall. Which professor? Mansker, legal philosophy. Rachel whistled. Oh, Mansker, every girl in the upper years loves him. Handsome, smart, single. But untouchable. They say he's been alone for years. And what happened? Why is he alone? Rachel shrugged. Not sure. Heard his wife died a few years ago. Cancer or something. Since then, he's been alone. A widower. That explained the sadness I had noticed in his eyes. A man who had lost someone he loved. I knew what it was like to lose, though I hadn't lost a person, but the chance to have a family. The week before his lecture dragged endlessly. I scolded myself for feeling this way. What was I, a lovesick schoolgirl? He was just a professor, I was just a student. Nothing special. Yet, when he entered the classroom, that strange flutter returned. Matt wore a dark suit and a white shirt, strict, elegant. He scanned the room, lingering on me for a moment, and gave the faintest smile. Good afternoon. I'm Matt Mansker, and for the next 2 semesters, we'll study the philosophy of law. Fair warning, this won't be easy. Philosophy of law isn't memorizing laws. It's understanding their essence, their foundation, their philosophical reasoning. He spoke passionately, gesturing, pacing the room. He talked about Plato and Aristotle, Kant and Hegel, modern legal theories. I listened, breathless. Not just because I liked him. He was genuinely captivating. I wanted to listen forever. After the lecture, I lingered, pretending to gather my things. Matt didn't rush either, answering students' questions. When the room cleared, he came over to me. "How was the lecture, Barbara?" "Very interesting. I didn't think philosophy could be so engaging." He smiled. "I'm glad I could interest you. Any questions?" I had plenty, but not about legal philosophy. "No, everything's clear." "Good. If anything isn't clear, come to my office. Room 312. Office hours posted on the door." I nodded and hurried to the exit. But at the door, I turned back. He was still watching me. The next weeks became a strange dance. In lectures, we exchanged glances, brief smiles. Sometimes after class we stayed to talk about philosophy, law, books. Nothing personal, nothing beyond the teacher-student relationship. But I felt something between us. A tension, electricity in the air. Or maybe it was just my imagination. In November, I went to his office for a consultation. I really did have a question about an essay. Matt sat behind his desk, reviewing papers. "Come in, Barbara. Have a seat." I sat across from him, taking out my notes. "I have a question about the essay topic. Kant's connection between law and morality. I don't quite understand his categorical imperative." Matt put down his pen, leaned back in his chair. "The categorical imperative is a universal moral law. Act so that the maxim of your will could become a universal law. In other words, before doing something, ask yourself, what if everyone acted this way? But that's utopia. People are different, situations vary. Exactly why Kant speaks of the categorical, the unconditional imperative. It must always apply, regardless of circumstances." We discussed Kant at length, then moved on to other philosophers. Gradually, the conversation became more personal. "And what do you believe yourself? In universal morality or the relativity of everything?" Matt thought for a moment. "You know, I used to believe in absolutes. Good and evil, right and wrong. Then life showed me it's much more complicated. Sometimes evil can turn into good, and good into evil." There was bitterness in his voice, and I realized he spoke of something personal. "You lost someone close," I said softly. He looked at me in surprise. "How do you know?" "I lost someone too. Not like you. I lost my parents before I really knew them. But loss is loss." Matt looked at me for a long time, then nodded. "Yes, I lost my wife. 4 years ago. Cancer. She was only 28. I'm so sorry. You know what's worst? Not the death itself, but what comes after. The emptiness. The lack of meaning. Why get up in the morning if no one is there to say good morning? Why go home if no one's waiting?" I knew that feeling. 18 years of waking up in an orphanage where no one cared. Where no one truly needed you. But you managed. You're here, teaching, helping students understand philosophy. This isn't life, Barbara. It's existence. Functioning. I do what I must, but I don't feel alive. And what would make you feel alive? He looked me straight in the eyes, and I saw something that took my breath away. "Dangerous question," he said quietly. Silence hung between us. We looked at each other, and the air seemed to spark. Then Matt looked away, picked up his pen. "I think we've covered Kant. If you have more questions, come by." It was a clear signal the conversation was over. I stood, gathering my things. "Thank you for the consultation. You're welcome. And Barbara, be careful." "With what?" "With the questions you ask. Not everyone is ready to answer them. Even to themselves." I left his office, my heart racing. What had that been? A warning or a confession? After that conversation, something shifted between us. Glances lingered longer, smiles were warmer. But we kept our distance. He was the teacher, I was the student. Nothing could happen. Shouldn't happen. Yet my heart had other ideas. I found myself thinking about him constantly, during other lectures, at home, before bed. His voice, his eyes, that rare smile. Rachel, of course, noticed. "You're in love with Mansker," she stated one day over lunch. "No, I'm not." "Barbara, don't lie to me. You look at him like a starving person at bread. And he looks at you too." "He doesn't." "Oh, he does. Half the class has noticed. The girls are already whispering." This alarmed me. The last thing I needed was gossip. Especially about Matt. It could damage his reputation. There's nothing between us and there won't be. He's a professor, I'm a student. You'll graduate. For years, that's not forever. But I knew Rachel was right. There was an attraction between Matt and me, growing stronger, and I didn't know how long we could ignore it. In December, something happened that changed everything. I was walking home late from the library. Snow fell in big flakes, and the streetlights created yellow circles in the darkness. Beautiful, and a little eerie. And then I saw him, Lance Paxton, standing near my building. The same uncle who had tried to take my inheritance. "Good evening, niece," he smirked. I stopped a few meters from him. "What do you want?" "Talk. Peacefully, no threats. I have information that might interest you." "I'm not interested in anything." "Not even the truth about your father's death?" I froze. The truth about his death? What did he mean? "He died of cancer." "Everyone knows that." Lance shook his head. "That's the official version. In reality, he was murdered. And I know who did it." "You're lying." "Think about it. A healthy man, regularly checked. And suddenly late-stage cancer in 6 months? Strange, isn't it? That happens. It happens. But not in this case. I have proof. Results of an independent examination. Earl's blood had traces of a rare, slow-acting poison mimicking cancer symptoms. Even if it's true, why stay silent for 3 years? Because the killer is too powerful. But now that you have money and connections, we can seek justice together. I don't believe you. Lance pulled a flash drive from his pocket. All the documents are here. Look, verify them. Then decide, do you want to find your father's killer or stay in ignorance? He handed me the flash drive. I hesitated. Taking anything from him was dangerous. But curiosity won. I took it, turned, and walked to the building entrance. "You have a week," Lance called after me. "Then I come for your answer." At home, I stared at the flash drive, afraid to plug it in. What if it was a virus? Another trap to harm me? Eventually, curiosity won. I opened the files, medical records, test results, expert reports. Everything looked authentic. And all indicated that Earl Paxton had been poisoned. One document listed a suspect. I read the name and couldn't believe my eyes. Impossible. This person couldn't have killed my father. Or could he? Malcolm Brackett. My teacher. The man who had cared for me all these years. The executor of my father's will. The one who sent me to the notary. My hands trembled as I read further. According to the documents, Malcolm wasn't just Earl's friend. They ran a shady, illegal business together, money laundering through construction projects. And when Earl decided to leave, Malcolm couldn't allow it. Earl knew too much, was too dangerous for the whole scheme. I leaned back from the computer, feeling nauseous. It had to be a lie. Lance was trying to turn me against Malcolm. But why? What would he gain? The phone rang, breaking my dark thoughts. Malcolm's number. as if he sensed I was thinking about him. Barbara, good evening. Am I calling late? No, I'm awake. Just wanted to check how you're doing. Studies? Settling into university life? His voice was as always calm, kind, lightly fatherly. Could this man really be capable of murder? Everything's fine, Malcolm. Studying, making friends. Glad to hear. Listen, maybe we can meet soon? Have some tea, talk. I've missed you. Missed me. Or testing if I knew too much. Of course, let's meet. When's convenient? How about Saturday? Around 3. Same cafe as before. Agreed. I hung up and stared at the screen again. I needed to make sense of all this before the meeting. To understand if Lance's documents were true, all night I studied the files. Bank transfers, contracts, correspondence. If it was fake, it was a very high-quality forgery. Too many details, too many coincidences. Then I found something else, a photo. Earl, Malcolm, and another man I didn't know. On the back, partners. 1998. Partners. So they really did run a business together. But did that mean Malcolm could commit murder? In the morning, I called Florence Chase. If anyone could help me make sense of this, it was her. Barbara? Something wrong? Florence, I need your help. It's about my father's death. Can we meet? Of course. Come by the office, I'll see you. An hour later, I was sitting in her office, showing her the documents from the flash drive. Florence examined them carefully, frowning occasionally. Where did you get this? Lance Paxton gave it to me. He claims Earl was murdered. Florence leaned back in her chair, taking off her glasses. I've heard those rumors. But there was no proof. So the rumors existed? In certain circles, yes. Earl's death was too sudden, too convenient for some people. For Malcolm? She looked at me intently. Barbara, you have to understand, this is a very serious accusation. Once you start digging, there's no turning back. I want to know the truth. Was my father murdered or not? Florence stood and walked to the window. There's someone who might know more. The investigator who handled your father's death. Officially, it was deemed natural, but he had doubts. He just couldn't prove anything. How do I find him? Douglas Gless. He's retired now, but I can give you his contact. Just be careful, Barbara. If your father was really murdered, the killer could still be dangerous. I took the investigator's contact and left the office with a heavy heart. Everything suggested that the rumors might be true. But I still couldn't believe Malcolm capable of such a thing. Douglas lived in a house on the outskirts of town. A short, sturdy man, around 60, with sharp eyes and a tired face. Mercer? Earl Paxton's daughter? Yes. I need to talk to you about his death. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Come in. I've been waiting for someone to ask these questions. The house was small but cozy. Douglas led me to an office cluttered with folders and papers. 3 years ago I handled your father's death. Officially of cancer. But there were many oddities. Like what? First, the speed of the disease. Too fast for ordinary cancer. Second, the symptoms were unusual. Third, a week before his death, Earl came to see me. Unofficially. He came to you? Why? He said someone was trying to kill him. That someone was poisoning him, but he didn't know who. He asked me to investigate if something happened to him. And did you investigate? I tried. But all leads went nowhere. Then I was hinted from above to close the case. Natural death, period. Who hinted? Douglas shook his head. I don't know exactly. A call from someone who knew things about me they shouldn't have. About family, grandchildren. Threats. Warnings. I closed the case. but I kept copies of the documents. Just in case. He stood, went to a safe in the corner, and pulled out a thick folder. This is everything I managed to gather. Maybe it'll help you. I took the folder and opened it. Medical reports, examination protocols, witness statements. What do you think about Malcolm Brackett? I asked. Douglas frowned. Brackett was a close friend of your father. But in the last months, they had a falling out. Over money, as far as I understand. They had some joint business, and Earl wanted out. So Malcolm had a motive? He did. But no evidence. Brackett had an alibi for all the critical dates. And he genuinely mourned at the funeral. Either an excellent actor or truly uninvolved. And who else could it have been? Douglas thought. There was another oddity. A month before Earl's death, he met with a woman. Young, beautiful. They met several times. Then she disappeared right after his death. A mistress? Maybe. Or maybe the killer. Classic scheme, gain trust, poison, disappear. Do you have her photo? He rummaged in the folder, pulling out a surveillance camera still. Low quality, but a woman's figure was recognizable. Young, slim, long dark hair. That's all there is. Don't know her name. Searched, but no luck. Like a ghost. I stared at the blurry photo, trying to make out her face. Who was she? And what did she have to do with my father's death? Back home, I spread all the documents on the table. Lance's version about Malcolm. The investigator's version about the mysterious woman. Threats from above. It all formed a tangled picture where the truth was hard to see. The phone rang. Matt. Barbara? You weren't in class today. Everything okay? His voice brought me back to reality. University, lectures, normal life. All of it seemed so distant now. Sorry, I'm a bit under the weather. Need help? I can bring notes, medicine. His care touched me. Amid all the chaos, he was an island of normality. Thanks, no need. I'll be in class tomorrow. Barbara, sorry for the personal question, but are you really okay? You sound troubled. I hesitated. Tell him? But that would drag him into this story. Family issues. Nothing serious. If you need to talk, I'm here. Not as a professor. As a friend. A friend. Could he be a friend when I felt something far from friendly for him? Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. After our conversation, I felt a little better. But the problems hadn't disappeared. Tomorrow I was meeting Malcolm, and I had to figure out how to act. Pretend I knew nothing? Or ask him directly? Saturday came too quickly. I sat in the cafe, waiting for Malcolm, nervously twisting a napkin. How do you look someone in the eye when you suspect them of murder? He arrived exactly at 3. Just as before, kind smile, warm eyes, a fatherly care. Barbara, you look wonderful. University suits you. Thank you, Malcolm. You look well too. He ordered tea for both of us and took out a box of chocolates. Your favorite. Remember when I used to bring them to the orphanage? I remember. We talked about trivial things, studies, the weather, future plans. But I felt he was waiting for something, as if he knew why I was really there. Malcolm, can I ask you a question? Of course. Were you your father's business partner? He froze with his cup at his lips. How do you know? I found documents in his apartment. Photos. You were partners. Malcolm set the cup down and sighed. Yes, we were. Long ago, in the late 90s. Hard times, had to survive. What kind of business? He was silent for a long time, staring out the window. Not exactly legal, to be honest. But back then, not much was legal. We bought and sold, made money out of thin air. Earl was a genius at it. And after that? Then he met your mother. Fell in love. Decided to quit the shady business. I couldn't. I didn't have his talent for honest work. We parted ways. But you stayed friends? Malcolm smiled bitterly. Friends? Barbara, in that world there are no friends. Only partners or enemies. Earl chose neither. He just left. And you were angry at him for that? He looked me straight in the eyes. Do you want to ask something specific, Barbara? Ask directly. Did you kill him? The words hung in the air. Malcolm didn't look surprised or outraged, just sad. Who told you? Lance? Doesn't matter who. Is it true? No, Barbara. I didn't kill Earl. Though there were times I wanted to. When he abandoned you, for example. I was ready to kill him for that. But I didn't. Then who? Malcolm shook his head. I don't know for sure. But I have suspicions. What kind? He paused again, as if weighing whether to speak. A month before Earl died, he called me. First time in years. Said he was in love. With a young woman who reminded him of Lily, your mother. Said he wanted to start a new life. Marry, maybe have children. And for that, he had to completely sever ties with the past. With all the shady business, all the old partners. And coincidence? I don't think so. You think this woman killed him? Or those who sent her? Earl knew too much, Barbara. About too many people. His death was convenient for too many. For whom exactly? Malcolm stood. That I won't tell you. For your own safety. Just accept the inheritance and live in peace. Don't dig. The truth isn't always worth it, Barbara. Sometimes it's better to live in ignorance. He put money on the table and left, leaving me with even more questions than before. That evening, I was at home going through documents when the doorbell rang. Matt. Opening the door, I saw he was carrying a bag of food and a bottle of wine. Sorry for intruding, but Rachel said you haven't left the house for days. I wanted to check if you're okay. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. In the middle of all this chaos, he came to care for me. Thank you. Come in. Matt entered and looked around the apartment, documents, photos, notes scattered everywhere. Looks like a detective's office, he remarked. Trying to figure out a family story. Complicated story? You could say that. I put the documents away and set the table. We ate the pasta he had brought, drank wine, and talked about everything except what really troubled me. Then Matt asked directly, Barbara, what's going on? And don't say nothing. You look like you're carrying the weight of the world. Maybe it was the wine, maybe fatigue, but I suddenly felt I couldn't stay silent any longer. I told him everything, about my father, the inheritance, the suspicions of murder. Matt listened silently, not interrupting. When I finished, he took my hand. You don't have to go through this alone. And what am I supposed to do? My father is dead, maybe murdered. I don't even know who to trust. Trust yourself. Your instincts. What are they telling you? I thought for a moment. That Malcolm isn't the killer. He's hiding something, but not that. Then keep looking. But not alone. Let me help. Matt, this could be dangerous. If my father really was killed, all the more reason you need support. I looked at him, into his gray-green eyes, full of genuine care, and felt something warm spread through my chest. Why do you want to help me? He was silent for a moment, then spoke softly. Because you're the first person in 4 years who made me feel alive. My heart skipped a beat. It was almost a confession. Almost, but not quite. Matt, I know it's wrong. You're my student. But I can't watch you suffer and do nothing. We stared at each other, and the air between us seemed to thicken. Then Matt looked away. Sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I better go. Don't go, I pleaded. Please. He stayed. We talked late into the night about the investigation, possible theories, what to do next. But beneath it all ran something else. Unspoken feelings, an impossible attraction. When he left, near dawn, I knew everything had changed. Between us, it was no longer just teacher-student. There was something more, dangerous and beautiful all at once. The next day, Rachel came over. So? What was he doing at your place until 4 in the morning? How do you know? Barbara, the whole building saw him leaving. So? Nothing. We were just talking. Rachel snorted skeptically. Just talking. Barbara, you know what could happen if word gets around campus? I know. But nothing happened, Rachel. Really? For now, she added. But you won't be able to hide it for long. It's obvious. She was right. The attraction between Matt and me was growing stronger, and I didn't know how long we could resist. But I had bigger problems right now. Lance called again. Well, niece, have you studied the documents? I have. And? We'll look for your father's killer together. But what do you want in return? Lance laughed. Smart girl. I want a share. Not of the inheritance, no. Of the truth. When we find the killer, when we prove it, it'll be a sensation. And sensations are worth money. You want to sell the story of your own brother's death? And what's wrong with that? Earl's dead, he doesn't care. But we're alive, we need money. I don't need that kind of money. Let's see what you say when you find out who the killer is. You know who it is? I suspect. But I need proof. And for that, I need you. Why? Because the killer thinks you don't know anything. That you're a naive orphan girl who got an inheritance and is happy. But if you start asking the right questions to the right people, I become the bait. Exactly. Ready to take the risk? I need to think. Think. But not too long. Killers don't like to wait. I hung up, feeling fear rising inside me. To become bait for a killer. It was madness. But if it was the only way to find the truth. That evening I met with Matt. We walked through the park despite the cold. Snow crunched under our feet, the streetlights created cozy circles of light. Don't do this, he said when I told him about Lance's offer. It's too dangerous. And what am I supposed to do? Live without knowing who killed my father. Better to live in ignorance than not live at all. I stopped and turned to him. And you? Could you live without knowing the truth about a loved one's death? Matt was silent for a long time. My wife, she didn't just die of cancer. She chose death. Refused treatment when there was still a chance. Said she was tired of fighting. I'm so sorry. I was angry at her for a long time. For giving up, for leaving me. I searched for someone to blame, doctors, myself, the whole world. Then I realized, sometimes the truth doesn't bring relief. Only pain. But you managed that pain. Managed? Matt smiled sadly. I was just existing, Barbara. For 4 years, just existing. Then I met you and realized life goes on. That you can feel again, love again. He took my hand, and I didn't pull away. Don't risk yourself. Please. I couldn't survive losing you too. You won't lose me, I whispered, and then he kissed me. Right there, in the snowy park under the streetlight. The kiss was desperate, hungry, full of 4 years of loneliness and pain. I kissed him back, forgetting everything, the fact that he was my professor, that it was wrong, that someone could see us. When we pulled apart, both of us were breathing heavily. Sorry, Matt exhaled. I shouldn't have. Don't apologize. I wanted this. Barbara, this can't happen. I'm your professor. I know. If anyone finds out, I'll be fired. I know. You'll get in trouble with your studies. I know. We looked at each other, fully aware of the impossibility of the situation. But our feelings were stronger than reason. What do we do? Matt asked. I don't know. But I know I don't want to lose you. And I don't want to lose you. We walked on, holding hands. Two lonely people who found each other at the most inconvenient moment. At home, a surprise awaited me. On the table lay an unsigned envelope. Inside was a photo, me and Matt in the park, kissing. And a note, stop the investigation, or this photo goes to the dean's office. Blackmail. Someone had been watching us. Someone who didn't want me to investigate my father's murder. I called Matt and told him about the photo. Someone's trying to pressure you through me, he said. And what do we do? Don't give in. If we give in now, they win. But your job. Forget the job. The truth is more important. Matt, you shouldn't risk your career for me. I'm not sacrificing anything. I'm choosing. Choosing you. Those words warmed me more than I could express. For the first time in my life, someone chose me. Not out of pity or obligation. Just chose. The next day, I went to Lance. I agree. I'll be the bait. He nodded approvingly. Smart girl. Knew you were strong. Like your father. What do I have to do? First, meet one person. The third in the photo you found. Who is he? Stuart Connolly. Your father and Malcolm's third partner. The one who stayed in the shadows when they came into the light. And you think he's the killer? Not personally. But he may know who is. Your job is to find out. How? Lance smirked. You're young, beautiful. He likes young and beautiful. Especially those who resemble Lily, your mother. You want me to seduce him? I want you to make him talk. By any means. That's disgusting. Necessary. If you want the truth. I thought of Matt, of his kiss, of his words. He had chosen me. And now I was supposed to flirt with another man for the investigation. I have conditions. Someone will be with me. For safety. Who? My friend. He'll be nearby in case something goes wrong. Lance shrugged. As you wish. The important thing is Connolly doesn't suspect anything. We arranged the meeting with Connolly for the next evening. Fancy restaurant, a believable story about me seeking investors for a project. Lance would arrange everything. That evening, I told Matt about the plan. He was against it, furiously against it. This is madness, Barbara. You don't know what this man is capable of. That's why you'll be there. At the next table. If anything goes wrong, you intervene. And if he's armed? Or has people? Then we'll know he's really dangerous. And maybe connected to the murder. Matt grabbed my shoulders, making me look into his eyes. I don't want to lose you. I just found you, and I won't lose you. You won't. I promise. He pulled me close, holding me as tightly as if he feared I might disappear. If anything happens to you, I'll never forgive myself. Nothing will happen. You'll be there. Always, he whispered into my hair. I'll always be there. The day of the meeting with Connolly arrived far too quickly. I put on the best dress I'd bought with my inheritance, black, elegant, figure-flattering. Makeup, hair done. In the mirror, a confident young woman stared back, not the frightened orphan girl I once was. Matt was waiting for me downstairs. When I stepped out, he froze, looking at me. You look stunning, he breathed. Thank you. I hope Connolly thinks so too. A flicker of jealousy crossed Matt's eyes, but he composed himself. Be careful. At the first sign of danger, leave. Okay. And Barbara, whatever happens, remember, I love you. The words caught me off guard, and for a moment I was speechless. Matt, No need to respond now. Just know it. I kissed him. Quick, fleeting, but I poured all my unspoken feelings into that kiss. I love you too, I whispered and stepped out of the car before I could lose my resolve. The restaurant was luxurious, crystal, gold accents, live music. Stuart Connolly was already seated at a corner table. A man in his mid-50s, gray-haired, groomed, wearing an expensive suit. His eyes were cold, calculating. Barbara. Pleasure to meet you. Lance has told me a lot about you. Likewise, Stuart. He kissed my hand, a formal, old-fashioned gesture, slightly intimidating. You're beautiful. Remarkably like your mother. You knew my mother? Connolly smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I saw her a few times. Earl brought her to our meetings. A beautiful woman. Such a shame she left us so early. We sat at the table. Connolly ordered expensive wine. I glanced at Matt, sitting at a table by the window. He was looking at the menu, but I knew he was watching our every move. So, you want to start your own business? Connolly asked, pouring wine. Yes. I'm thinking of an art gallery. I have some startup capital, but I need connections, experience. And you came to me? Lance said you're the best at this. Connolly smiled smugly. Lance exaggerates. But yes, I have experience and connections. The question is, what are you willing to offer in return? What do you mean? He leaned closer, lowering his voice. In business, dear Barbara, nothing is free. There's always a price. The question is whether you're willing to pay it. He smelled of expensive cologne and something else. Danger. That depends on the price. A reasonable approach. Your father thought the same. Though, in the end, he decided some prices were too high. What do you mean? Connolly leaned back in his chair, twirling his glass. Earl was talented, but too emotional. Fell in love with your mother and decided to become honest. As if in our world you can just choose to be honest. Why not? Because the past never lets go, dear. It always catches up. Earl thought he could just leave it behind, forget it all. But that doesn't happen. You threatened him? Me? Connolly feigned indignation. Why would I threaten an old friend? I merely warned him. Some people don't like it when someone leaves the game, especially knowing too much. Some people? He shook his head. Don't stir up the past, Barbara. Your father is dead. Natural causes, as all the documents say. Best to leave it at that. And if I want to know the truth? Connolly looked at me long and hard. The truth is dangerous. Especially for young, beautiful women with their whole lives ahead of them. Is that a threat? Advice. Free, which is rare for me. The waiter brought appetizers. Connolly switched to polite conversation, but I felt the tension under his courteous mask. You really do resemble your mother, he said suddenly. Not just in looks. That same stubborn crease between your brows when you're thinking. Lily was stubborn too. You knew her well? Better than you think. Something in his tone made me uneasy. We dated before she got together with Earl, Connolly continued. A beautiful romance. But she chose him. Women always choose the wrong men. I felt my fingers grow cold. Connolly had been involved with my mother? Earl knew? Of course. We didn't hide it. But he was in love and willing to forgive her everything, even that she'd been with me first. My head was spinning. This changed everything. If Connolly had loved my mother and she chose Earl. You had a motive, I said quietly. A motive for what? Connolly smiled, but something dark flickered in his eyes. For murder. Silence fell. Connolly slowly set his glass on the table. Watch your words, girl. Accusations like that can be costly. I'm not accusing. I'm stating a fact. My mother chose Earl, not you. That could wound someone. Wound? Connolly laughed, but the laugh was cold. Darling, at my age you're not wounded over women. Lily made her choice, I accepted it. And then she died in childbirth, long before Earl's death, but the memory remained. And a daughter who looks like her. He looked at me closely. You're smarter than you seem. A dangerous quality in a woman. I learned from the best. In an orphanage you quickly learn to read people. And what did you read in me? That you're a dangerous man. But not a killer. At least, not personally. Connolly lifted his glass in a silent toast. Bravo. Very clever. Earl would be proud. So who killed him? Connolly fell silent, as if weighing whether to answer. Are you sure you want to know? Some secrets are better left buried. I'm sure. He sighed, lit a cigar without asking, and spoke. There was a woman. Young, beautiful, like your mother. Earl fell for her like a boy. Took her to restaurants, gave gifts, promised to marry her. Who was she? No one knows her real name. She called herself Cassandra. She appeared from nowhere and vanished into nowhere. A high-class professional, one of those you hire for special tasks, seduce, extract secrets, and, if needed, remove someone. Who hired her? Connolly shrugged. If I knew, I'd tell you. Earl had many enemies and many secrets someone wanted buried with him. And Malcolm? Could he have hired her? Malcolm? Connolly thought a moment. Maybe. They had complicated relations in recent years. But Malcolm isn't the type to get his hands dirty. He prefers cleaner schemes. Then who? Connolly stubbed out his cigar and stood up. Our conversation is over, Barbara. I've said more than I should. Decide the rest yourself. Wait. How do I find this Cassandra? You don't. People like that leave no traces. But if she's still in town, still working, he paused. There's a place. The Velvet Lounge. Elite, closed club. That's where women like her gather. Maybe someone there knows her. Thank you. Don't thank me. And be careful. If she did kill Earl, she won't hesitate at you. He left, and my heart pounded. Cassandra, mysterious woman who might have killed my father. Now I had a name, or at least an alias. Matt came to my table as soon as Connolly disappeared through the door. You okay? Yes. I learned what I needed. I heard parts of that. A woman. Are you going after her? I have to. She's the key. Barbara, it's too dangerous. A professional killer. A possible killer. For now it's only a suspicion. Matt took my hand. Let's give this to the police. Let them deal with it. They won't. The case is closed. The death was ruled natural. Without proof they won't lift a finger. Then leave it be. Your father is dead. You can't bring him back. I looked him in the eyes. And if it were your wife? If you found out she'd been murdered? Would you leave it alone? Matt looked away. We both knew the answer. The next day I started looking into Velvet Lounge. There was almost nothing online, just an address and a note that it was a private club by invitation only. I called Lance. I need to get into the Velvet Lounge. Why go into that cesspool? I have information about a woman who could have killed Earl. She might be tied to that club. Lance whistled. You move fast. Connolly talked. Can you get an invitation or not? I can. But it will cost. How much? Not money. Favor for favor. When you find the killer, exclusive story rights. Fine. Anything else? In Velvet you don't go alone. You need a companion. A respectable, well-off man. I have a companion. Your professor? Lance snorted. Yes, I know. The whole city's whispering about your romance. I don't care about gossip. You should. Gossip can ruin careers, his and yours. That's our problem. As you wish. Invitation ready tomorrow. For 2 people. And Barbara Velvet has strict rules. Be prepared for what you might see. That evening I told Matt about the plan. He was, as always, against it. This is getting too dangerous. First Connolly, now some underground club. It's an elite club, not an underground one. Where high-class prostitutes and their clients gather. Barbara, you don't belong there. And where do I belong? In the orphanage? In a dorm? I've spent my whole life out of place, Matt. I'm used to it. He hugged me, pulling me close. Your place is next to me. Here, safe. I can't hide from the truth. I can't live not knowing who killed my father and why. Even if that knowledge destroys your life? It was already destroyed the moment my father left me in the orphanage. Now I'm just picking up the pieces. Matt kissed the top of my head. All right. I'll go with you. But at the first sign of danger, we leave. Deal. 2 days later we stood in front of an unmarked door in an alley behind the Opera House. No sign, just a building number. Matt wore a tuxedo, I had on an evening dress. We looked like a couple going to the theater. Ready? Matt asked. Yes. He rang the bell. A large man in a black suit opened the door. Invitation? Matt handed over the card Lance had given us. The guard scanned it and nodded. Come in. Cloakroom to the left, main hall straight ahead. Inside, the club looked luxurious, marble, velvet, low light. Soft music, quiet conversations. At first glance it was just an upscale private club. But when I looked closer I noticed details, girls too young next to men too old, outfits that were too revealing, smiles that looked professionally practiced. Don't stare so obviously, Matt whispered. Act like you've been to places like this before. I pulled myself together and took a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. What now? Now we look for information. Ask about Cassandra. Carefully. We moved into the main hall. There were more people, some faces I recognized, politicians, businessmen, people you see on TV. Behind the bar stood a woman of about 35, well-groomed, tired-eyed. I approached her. Good evening. Do you know where I could find Cassandra? She sized me up. Which Cassandra? There are several. The one who was with Earl Paxton 3 years ago. Her expression shifted, guarded. I don't know her. And I'd advise you not to ask. Why not? Curiosity killed the cat. Especially a young, pretty cat. She turned away, signaling the conversation was over, but I saw her pull out her phone and quickly send a message. Matt came over. Did you learn anything? She knows, but she won't say. And she told someone I asked. We should leave. Wait. Let's try one more thing. I scanned the room. In a corner sat a group of girls, young, pretty, bored. I went over to them. Excuse me, can I sit? They glanced at each other. One shrugged. Sit. I sat down, doing my best to look casual. First time here. A bit lost, I said. Newbie, the brunette with long hair smirked. Who brought you? A friend. Said you can earn good money here. The girls exchanged looks. You can earn, the brunette said. If you're ready for anything. I'm ready for a lot. I need the money. What can you do? I shrugged. They teach you. I heard there's one, Cassandra. She's the best. I want to learn from her. At the name they tensed. Cassandra's gone, the blonde said. Disappeared 3 years ago. Disappeared? After that Paxton story. She did her job and vanished. Rumor is she left the country. What was the story? The brunette leaned in, lowering her voice. Paxton, rich guy, fell head over heels for her. A month later he was dead. Supposedly cancer. But everyone says she poisoned him. Hired work. Who hired her? She shrugged. Who knows? Lots of people wanted guys like Paxton dead. He knew too much, got in too many people's way. And where is Cassandra now? No one knows. But there are rumors. The blonde looked around to make sure no one overheard. That she didn't leave. That she changed her name, her face, and still works in the city under another name. How do you find her? The girls laughed. Sweetheart, you don't look for people like that. They find themselves if they need to. A man in an expensive suit approached us. What are you chatting about, ladies? The girls instantly transformed, professional smiles, playful glances. We were just dreaming about you, darling, the brunette purred. I realized the conversation was over. I stood and went to find Matt. I found him at the bar, talking to a man. Barbara, meet Tony Grant, the club owner. A man in his 50s, gray-haired, with cold eyes, kissed my hand. Charming companion, Matt. Lucky you. I'm the lucky one, Matt replied. I heard you're asking about Cassandra, Tony said, looking me in the eyes. Yes. She was acquainted with my father. I want to find her. Your father? And who is he? Earl Paxton. Tony's face didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. My condolences for your loss. Earl was a good man. But Cassandra, I'm afraid I can't help. She disappeared right after his death. Do you have any contacts? A photo? Tony shook his head. We don't keep that kind of information. Confidentiality comes first. But she worked here. She was here. Like many others. But worked is too crude a word for what Cassandra did. And what did she do? She solved problems. Expensively and efficiently. Matt squeezed my hand, warning me not to push further. Thanks for the information, Tony. You're welcome. And a piece of advice, don't look for Cassandra. If she doesn't want to be found, there's a reason. And people who push too hard sometimes find more than they expected. Is that a threat? Just advice. He left, and Matt and I were left at the bar. We need to go, Matt said. Now. But I haven't learned everything yet. You've learned enough. Cassandra disappeared, maybe still in the city under another name. And the club owner clearly knows something but won't tell. We left the club. It was cold outside, and I shivered. Matt put his jacket over me. What now? He asked. I don't know. All trails lead to Cassandra, but finding her seems impossible. Maybe that's a sign to stop. I shook my head. I'm so close to the answer. I can't stop now. At home, another surprise awaited me. An email from an unknown address. One line, stop looking for me, or you'll regret it. Cassandra knows I'm looking for her. That means she's really in town and watching me. I showed the email to Matt. This changes everything. She knows about you. You're in danger. Or she's bluffing. Trying to scare us. Barbara, this could be a professional killer. Not the time for games. And what do you suggest? Hiding? Giving up? I suggest going to the police. With what? An anonymous email? They'll laugh. Then let's leave. At least for a while. Until things settle down. Leave? Where? Anywhere. Just far from here. I looked at him. Matt was serious. He was really ready to drop everything and leave with me. You're ready to leave your job, your home, everything? For you? Yes. Matt. I already lost one woman I loved. I won't lose a second. You won't. But I can't leave. Not now. Give me a little more time. How much? A week. If I don't find anything in a week, we leave. Matt hugged me tight. 1 week. But at the first sign of danger, we leave immediately. Okay. The next days I spent researching every woman named Cassandra in the city. There were hundreds. No last names, no clear description. Finding the right one seemed impossible. I met with Douglas Gless again, the former investigator. Cassandra? Yes, that name came up in the case. But that's all I have. No last name, no address, no proper photo. And what did the witnesses say? What did she look like? Douglas pulled out his notes. Woman, 2,530 years old. About 5 feet 7 inches, slim. Long dark hair. Eyes brown or green, witnesses disagree. Beautiful, everyone agreed on that. That description fits thousands of women. Exactly. That's why she wasn't found. But there was one detail. Douglas paused. One witness, a waiter from the restaurant where she met Paxton, said she had a scar. Small, on her left hand, like a burn. He noticed it when she took off her gloves. A scar. That's something specific. If he wasn't mistaken. And if she hasn't removed it. 3 years have passed. Still, thanks. That's more than I had before. Douglas looked at me seriously. Do you really want to find your father's killer? Yes. Even if it ruins your life? Why does everyone ask that? My life is already ruined. I just want to know the truth. Douglas nodded. Then I can give you one more piece of advice. Check hospitals. If she really had a fresh burn 3 years ago, she might have sought medical help. Especially private clinics, where they don't ask unnecessary questions. It was a good idea. I started calling private clinics, pretending to be a journalist writing about the quality of medical services. Most refused to give patient information, but some were more talkative. Finally, at a clinic on the outskirts of the city, the administrator remembered. Yes, there was a patient like that. 3 years ago, in the spring. She came in with a hand burn. Said she spilled boiling water. Beautiful woman, memorable. What was her name? The administrator checked the records. Cassandra Chase. Chase. The same last name as my notary. Coincidence? Do you have her address? Phone number? I'm sorry, but that information is confidential. I've already said more than I should have. I thanked her and hung up. Cassandra Chase. Now I had a full name. But was she the Cassandra I was looking for? And what was her connection to Florence Chase? I decided to check. I called the notary office, posing as a client. Hello. Does Florence have a daughter named Cassandra? The secretary paused. I'm sorry, but Florence does not discuss her personal life with clients. But she has a daughter? I cannot provide that information. If you have questions for Florence, schedule an appointment. I hung up. The secretary neither confirmed nor denied it. So it was possible Florence really had a daughter named Cassandra. That evening I told Matt about my findings. You think the notary is connected to your father's murder? Not her personally. But maybe her daughter. If she has a daughter. That's a stretch. Chase is a common surname, but the coincidence is strange. Florence handled my father's affairs. She knew about the will, the inheritance. And her daughter might have been the Cassandra who poisoned him. Barbara, you're building a theory on assumptions. What else can I do? I have no direct evidence, only coincidences and suspicions. Matt took my hands. Listen. Tomorrow your 1-week limit ends. Let's leave, as we agreed. One more day. Just one more day. Barbara. Please. I'm so close to the answer. I can feel it. Matt sighed. One day. But that's the last. The next morning I went to Florence. I didn't call ahead, I just showed up. Barbara, the secretary said, surprised. Do you have an appointment? No, but it's urgent. Tell Florence it's about Cassandra. The secretary frowned but went to inform her. She returned a minute later. Go in. Florence was sitting at her desk, pale and tense. What do you need, Barbara? Do you have a daughter named Cassandra? Florence was silent for a long moment, staring at me. How do you know? So, there's one. And she's the same Cassandra who was involved with my father before his death? Florence covered her face with her hands. I had hoped you would never find out. She killed him? No. Florence raised her head. Cassandra didn't kill your father. She loved him. Loved him? But people say she's a professional. One of those hired to. That's true, Florence interrupted. My daughter, she chose that life. I couldn't stop her. But with Earl, it was different. Tell me. Florence stood and walked to the window. Cassandra was indeed hired to seduce Earl. To find out his secrets, gather compromising information. But she fell in love with him. Truly, for the first time in her life. Who hired her? I don't know. She never revealed her clients' names. But someone wanted to control Earl, to use his knowledge and connections. And what happened? Cassandra confessed to Earl. Told him the truth, what she had been hired to do. Earl, he forgave her. Said he loved her. Wanted to marry her, start a new life. But he died. Yes. And Cassandra was sure he had been killed. Because of her. Because she failed her assignment, because she confessed to him. Where is she now? Florence turned to me, tears in her eyes. I don't know. After Earl's death, she disappeared. She said they'd kill her too if they found her. She left, changed her appearance, her name. Sometimes she sends me signs to let me know she's alive. But where she is, I don't know. I have to find her. She's the only one who knows the truth about my father's murder. Florence shook her head. Even if you find her, she won't tell you. It's too dangerous. The people who killed Earl are still out there. And they won't stop if they learn that Cassandra is alive and might speak. Who are these people? I don't know. But Cassandra once said it's someone very powerful. Someone who can buy the police, the courts, the press. Someone for whom human life means nothing. I have an anonymous letter. Threats. Could that be her? Florence glanced at my phone. Maybe. If she knows you're looking for her, she's trying to protect you. And herself. Protect by threatening me? To scare you away from the investigation. So you don't repeat your father's fate. I need to talk to her. That's impossible. I don't even know how to contact her. She calls from different numbers, writes from different addresses. But you could pass along a message. If she reaches out? Florence thought for a moment. What do you want to say to her? That I'm Earl's daughter. That I don't blame her. And that I need the truth about his death. Only the truth. Nothing more. All right. If she contacts me, I'll pass it on. But I can't promise she'll answer. I stood up to leave, glancing back at the door. Florence, why didn't you tell me the truth from the start? When I came for the inheritance. She smiled sadly. Because I hoped you'd take the money and live happily. Without knowing the truth. Sometimes ignorance is a blessing, Barbara. I left the office with a heavy heart. The story was getting more tangled. Cassandra didn't kill my father. She loved him. But someone killed him because of her, or because of what she told him. At home, Matt was waiting with suitcases. The week is over, he said. We're leaving. Matt, I learned something important. Cassandra didn't kill my father. She loved him. Someone else did. Does that change things? Yes. Now I know I shouldn't be looking for her, but for the person who hired her in the first place. And how do you plan to find him? I don't know. But. No buts. You promised. The week's over. We're leaving. Wait. The phone rang. An unknown number. Hello? Barbara Mercer? A woman's voice, low and hoarse. Yes, my name is Cassandra. I think you've been looking for me. My heart skipped a beat. Cassandra? The very same. Your mother passed me your message. Do you want to know the truth about Earl? Yes. I really do. The truth is dangerous. Are you ready for it? I'm ready. Then listen carefully. Tomorrow, at noon, cafe by the old station. Come alone. If I see anyone else, I'll leave. All right. And Barbara Earl spoke about you often. Loved you. Regretted not being able to be near you. You really loved him? Yes. The only man I ever loved. And because of me, he died. She hung up. I stood there, phone in hand, hardly believing what had just happened. That was her? Matt asked. Yes. Meeting tomorrow. She'll tell the truth. You're not going alone. She set the rules. Only me, or she leaves. That could be a trap. I don't think so. I heard real pain in her voice. Matt hugged me. I'll be nearby. Hidden, but close. No, Matt. If she sees you, it's over. This is my only chance to learn the truth. We argued for a long time, but in the end Matt gave in on the condition that I check in with him every 15 minutes. In the morning I dressed carefully. Nothing flashy, but neat. I wanted to make a good impression on the woman who had loved my father. The cafe by the old station turned out to be a small, half-empty place. I arrived 10 minutes early and took a seat by the window. Right at noon, a woman walked in. Tall, slim, in a simple black coat and a hat that hid part of her face. But I knew instantly it was her. She sat across from me and took off her hat. A beautiful face with delicate features, green eyes, dark hair pulled back into a bun. And sadness. An endless sadness in her eyes. You look like him, she said. The same eyes. Thank you for coming. I had to. For Earl. A waitress brought menus, but we both declined. Food was the last thing on our minds. Tell me what happened, I asked. Cassandra leaned back in her chair, looking out the window. 3 years ago, I was hired. The job was simple: seduce Earl Paxton, gain his trust, get information about his past dealings. Dirt that could be used for blackmail. Who hired you? I don't know a name. I worked through a middleman. But it was someone from his past. Someone who knew what he'd done in the late 90s. And you agreed? It was my job. I didn't ask questions. But with Earl, things didn't go as planned. Cassandra gave a sad smile. He wasn't like the others. Kind, sincere, lonely. He talked about you all the time. About the daughter he left. How much he regretted it. How he wanted to make it right but didn't know how. And you fell in love with him? Yes. For the first time in my life, I truly fell in love. And I couldn't keep lying. I confessed everything to him. How did he react? At first he was shocked. Then angry. And then he forgave me. Said he understood. That everyone has a past, their mistakes. And that he loved me. Were you happy? For 2 weeks. The happiest 2 weeks of my life. Earl was making plans. He wanted to leave with me, start a new life. He wanted to find you, beg for forgiveness, introduce us. But then he got sick. Only it wasn't sickness. He was poisoned. Slowly, professionally. A toxin that mimics cancer symptoms. Who? The person who hired me. When I failed the assignment, when Earl learned the truth, they decided to get rid of him. And I was warned, disappear if I wanted to live. You don't know who it was? Cassandra hesitated, as if deciding whether to speak. I have a suspicion. Someone who knew every detail of Earl's affairs. Someone who knew his weaknesses. Someone who could arrange both the murder and the cover-up. Who? She leaned in, lowering her voice. Lance Paxton. His brother. I felt the blood drain from my face. Lance? The very man pushing me to investigate? But he's the one who gave me the murder documents. He's been guiding the investigation. Of course. The best way to control an investigation is to lead it. He used you to find me. The last witness. Oh my God. I led him right to you. Cassandra shook her head. He doesn't know about our meeting. I'm very careful. But now you're in danger. If Lance realizes you know the truth, I need proof. Without it, these are just words. There is no proof. Lance is too smart. But there's someone who might know more. Who? Tony Grant, owner of the Velvet Lounge. He was the middleman. Payments for my work went through him. He might know who the client was. But he won't tell. I already asked. Not to you. But he might tell me if I ask. You're willing to risk showing yourself to him? Cassandra stood up. For Earl, yes. Meet me here tomorrow. I'll try to find out the truth. Wait. I have one more question. Why would Lance want to kill his brother? Money. Power. Envy. Earl was successful, wealthy, respected. Lance lived his whole life in his shadow. And when the chance came to take everything for himself but the inheritance went to you. That surprised Lance? He didn't know you existed. No one did, except Earl and Malcolm Brackett. When you appeared, Lance tried to take the inheritance. Failed. Then he decided to use you to find me and close the last hole. Everything was falling into a horrific pattern. I had been a pawn in Lance's game from the start. Be very careful, Barbara. Lance is dangerous. If he realizes you know. I'll be careful. And one more thing. Cassandra pulled an envelope from her bag. Earl asked me to give this to you if anything happened to me. I kept it safe. I took the envelope. In my father's handwriting, it read, Barbara, when she grows up. Thank you. Cassandra nodded, put on her hat, and quickly left the cafe. I stayed behind, clutching the envelope, trying to process everything I had just learned. Lance had killed his brother, my father, and used me to cover his tracks. I opened the envelope. Inside were a few photographs and a letter. The photos were of me with my mother. She was holding me as a newborn, smiling, happy. Another photo was of my father, young and handsome, looking at us with love in his eyes. The letter was short. Barbara, my little daughter. If you're reading this, I'm no longer here, and Cassandra has fulfilled my last wish. I love you. Always have, from the first day I saw you in the hospital. Tiny, helpless, mine. Forgive me for not being there, for being afraid, for taking the easy path instead of the right one. Cassandra is a good person, whatever people say. She just got lost in life, like I did. We found each other too late. Be happy, my daughter. Live for both of us, for me and for your mother. I love you. Dad. Tears fell onto the letter, smudging the ink. Dad. He loved me. Always had. I left the cafe and went to Matt. He was waiting at home, pacing nervously. Thank God you're okay. What did she say? I told him everything about Lance, the murder, and my father's letter. We need to go to the police immediately, Matt said. With what? Words from a woman who officially doesn't exist? I have no proof. But Lance is dangerous. If he finds out, he won't. I'll be careful. Barbara, this is insane. We need to leave now. No. Cassandra is trying to get evidence. I have to wait. Matt grabbed my shoulders. And if something happens to you, I won't survive it. Nothing will happen. You're here. I'm not omnipotent, Barbara. I can't protect you from everything. I hugged him tightly, pressing against him. You can. I believe in you. That evening, Lance called. Well, niece, any news on the investigation? I tried to keep my voice steady, though I trembled with hatred inside. Nothing concrete yet. Cassandra has disappeared without a trace. Too bad. I was hoping you'd find her. Why? What do you want from her? The truth, of course. I want to know who killed my brother. A liar. A killer. And what if the murderer is someone close? Someone we know? Lance was silent. What do you mean? Nothing specific. Just thinking. Only someone close to Earl could have killed him. Someone who knew his habits, his weaknesses. For example, a brother. There was a long, heavy silence. Careful, girl. Such accusations can end badly. This isn't an accusation. Just a theory. A foolish theory. I loved my brother. Strange love. First, you tried to contest the inheritance, then you used me to find witnesses. I wanted justice. Or you wanted to make sure all traces were covered. Lance laughed. Cold, cruel. You're playing with fire, girl. And you could get burned. Is that a threat? It's a warning. The last one. He hung up. I realized I had crossed the line. Now Lance knew I suspected him. Matt was furious when I told him about the call. Are you insane? Why did you provoke him? I wanted to see his reaction. And what did you learn? That he's dangerous? That was obvious. But now he knows I'm not so easy. Maybe it'll make him more cautious. Or make him act more decisively. Barbara, you are in mortal danger. I know. But it's too late to back down. The night passed restlessly. I kept dozing off, only to wake at every sound. Matt stayed at my place, sleeping on the couch in the living room. His presence was comforting, but the anxiety never left. In the morning, Florence called. Barbara, it's urgent. Can you come over? What happened? Not over the phone. Come immediately. I rushed to the notary office. Florence looked scared. Cassandra contacted me. She's in trouble. What happened? Last night she went to the Velvet Lounge to speak with Tony Grant. But he was warned. Cassandra was expected. Oh my God. Is she okay? For now, yes. But she's being held. Tony called me. He said he would release her if you came. Alone. That's a trap. Of course it's a trap. But we have no choice. If we don't go, they'll kill her. I'm coming with you. She's my daughter. Florence, it's dangerous. I know. But I won't leave her. I thought it over. Going alone would be suicide. But bringing an elderly woman. I have a friend. He can help. Bring whoever you want. The main thing is to save Cassandra. I called Matt and explained the situation. I'm coming with you, he said. They demand that I come alone. To hell with their demands. I'm not letting you go alone. Matt, if they see you, then we'll bring backup. I have a friend, a former cop. He'll help. An hour later, we met at the club, Matt, his friend Joel, a sturdy man in his 40s, Florence, and I. The plan is simple, Joel said. You and Florence go in. We wait outside. If you don't come out in 15 minutes, we come in after you. And if they don't let us out, they will. They don't want unnecessary problems. Florence and I went inside. During the day, The club felt different, empty, uncomfortable, like a set after the show. Tony Grant was waiting in his office, flanked by 2 guards. "Glad you came," he said. "Have a seat." "Where's Cassandra?" Florence asked. "She's fine. For now. We want to see her. First, we talk. Barbara, you cause trouble. You're looking for things you shouldn't. Asking questions you shouldn't. I'm looking for my father's killer. And you think you found him?" I stared him in the eyes. "Lance Paxton ordered the murder. You were the middleman. Cassandra was supposed to gather compromising info, but she fell in love instead. The plan failed, and Earl was killed." Tony slowly clapped his hands. "Bravo. Almost the truth. Only, you have no proof. Cassandra can testify." He laughed. "Cassandra? A woman who officially doesn't exist? Whose word will carry more weight, hers or a respected businessman like Lance Paxton? Then why are you holding her? If she's not dangerous?" "Insurance. As long as she's with me, you'll be more compliant." "What do you want?" "For you to stop the investigation. Forget everything. Leave the city and never return." "And Cassandra?" "I'll release her. If you sign the papers." "What papers?" Tony pulled documents from a drawer. "A waiver of all claims. A promise not to disclose any information. And one more thing." "What?" "Transfer of Earl Paxton's inheritance rights to his brother, Lance." So that was it. It was all about money. The inheritance. Lance wouldn't stop until he got the cash. Lance is persistent. And he has every reason to think the inheritance belongs to him. He killed his brother for money. That's your speculation. I stood up. "I won't sign. And you'll release Cassandra, or I'll go to the police." "With what? That you illegally broke into a private club? That you're slandering respectable people? With proof of murder." "You don't have any." "I do. Correspondence between Lance and you. Records of money transfers. Witness statements." I was bluffing, but Tony didn't know that. "You're lying?" "Check. Arrest me, kill me. But copies of those documents are already with my lawyer. If anything happens to me, they go to the police and the press." He squinted at me. "Suppose you have something. But you don't count on one thing. Cassandra is in my hands now. And I can do whatever I want with her." Florence jumped up. "Don't you dare touch my daughter. Your daughter chose this life herself, ma'am. No one forced her into what she did. She wanted to change. Earl gave her a chance. Earl's dead. His opinion no longer matters." The office door flew open. Lance Paxton walked in. "Decided to meet without me? Not nice." I stepped back. The trap had snapped shut. Now we were all in the killer's hands. Lance came up to me and stopped half a meter away. "Hello, niece. Didn't expect you to be so stubborn. You killed my father." "Your father?" He smirked. "Earl left you at the orphanage. What kind of father was he to you?" He repented. He wanted to make it right. Too late to repent. When he smelled death. "You poisoned him." "Prove it." "Cassandra will tell everything." "Cassandra?" Lance laughed. "A bought girl who slept with anyone for money. Who will believe her?" "She loved Earl." "Loved?" "She loved money. Like all her kind." Florence stepped forward. "My daughter made mistakes. But she truly loved your brother. And he loved her." Lance turned to her. "Your daughter is a whore. And you raised a whore." Florence slapped him, hard and loud. Lance grabbed her by the throat. "You old fool. Let her go." I screamed. Lance squeezed Florence's throat and she started to choke. I lunged at him, trying to pull him off, but he was stronger. Then the door burst open. Matt and Joel stormed in. "Let her go, now!" Joel barked, training a gun on Lance. He loosened his grip. Florence fell, gasping for air. "Who are you?" Tony demanded. "Police," Joel lied. "Everyone stay where you are." "You have no right." "We do. Suspicion of murder, kidnapping, extortion." "Enough?" Lance tried to move toward the exit, but Matt blocked him. "Don't make a move," Matt warned. "You'll regret this," Lance hissed. "I have connections." "We have your confession recorded," I said, pulling out my phone. "I recorded everything while we were talking." "You had no right." "I did. You threatened us, held someone hostage." "Where is Cassandra?" Joel demanded of Tony. Tony was silent. Joel pressed a gun to his temple. "I'm not joking." "Where is she?" "In the basement. Third door on the left." Matt ran downstairs. He came back a few minutes later supporting Cassandra. She was pale, with a bruise on her cheek, but alive. "Mom," she whispered when she saw Florence. They hugged, both of them crying. "Touching," Lance sneered. "But it changes nothing. You have no real evidence." "We do," Cassandra said. "I kept records. Correspondence, documents. Everything that proves you ordered your brother's murder." She pulled a flash drive out and handed it to me. "It's all here. I kept it in case I needed to defend myself." Lance went pale. "You're lying." "Check. There's your correspondence with the executor. Instructions on what poison to use. Amounts transferred." Lance lunged at Cassandra, but Joel knocked him to the ground. "Down." We called the real police. Investigator Douglas Gless arrived, the same Douglas Gless who had once investigated Earl's death. After hearing our story and reviewing the evidence on the flash drive, he arrested Lance and Tony. "You did well, Barbara," he said to me. "Without you, we would never have solved this case. I just wanted to know the truth. Truth doesn't always bring relief, but it brings justice." The investigator nodded. "Lance Paxton will be charged with murder. Tony Grant for complicity. Both will likely face long sentences." That evening, we all gathered at my place, Florence, Cassandra, Matt, and me. A strange group, brought together by tragedy and the search for truth. "Thank you," Cassandra said, looking at me. "For not giving up. For seeking the truth. It was you who risked your life for the truth. For Earl. He deserved justice." We fell silent, remembering the man each of us had loved in our own way. "What will you do now?" I asked Cassandra. "I'll leave. Start a new life. Maybe get a real job. Earl believed I could change. You can. I believe in you." She smiled. For the first time, I saw her smile, beautiful and sincere. "And you? What will you do with the inheritance? Live. Study. Be happy. Just as my father wanted. He would be proud of you." Florence stood. "It's time for us to go. Thank you for everything, Barbara. And you too, Matt." They left, mother and daughter, hand in hand. Two women who had survived hell and found each other. Matt and I were alone. "It's over," he said. "Yes. The killer caught, the truth revealed. And now?" I looked at him, the man who had been by my side through every trial, risking his career and life for me. "Let's leave. Like you suggested. Start a new life." Matt pulled me into his arms. "Where?" "Anywhere. As long as we're together." He kissed me. Gentle, careful, full of love. "Together," he repeated. A month later, the court delivered the sentence. Lance Paxton received life imprisonment for the murder of his brother. Tony Grant got 15 years for complicity. Malcolm came to the trial. After the verdict, he approached me. Earl would be proud of you. You turned out stronger than any of us. I just wanted the truth. And you got it. Not everyone could do what you did. I looked at him, the teacher who had kept the secret for so many years. You knew about Lance? I suspected. But there was no proof. And I was afraid for you, for myself. Lance was dangerous. Now he's not. No. Thanks to you. We said goodbye. I never saw him again. I heard he left the city and started teaching elsewhere. Frederick flew in from England for the trial. We spent a week together, talking about my father, the past, and the future. You're a heroine, he said. You solved a murder and restored justice. I'm not a heroine. Just a daughter who wanted to know the truth about her father. He would have been proud of you. I know. Frederick left, but we stayed in touch. A real family, even from a distance. 6 months later, Cassandra sent a letter from England. She had started working in a gallery and begun a new life. She thanked me and promised to live honorably, in memory of Earl. Florence continued working as a notary. We met occasionally, drank tea, and reminisced. She became almost like family, the only person, besides Cassandra, who knew my father from another side. Matt and I moved. Not far, to a neighboring town. He found a job at a university, I transferred there too. We began a new life, free from the weight of the past. But I often thought of my father. The man I never really knew, yet who loved me. Of his mistakes and regrets. The price he paid. And of the truth, that bitter as it may be, it is better than lies. Because only truth gives freedom. Freedom to live, to love, to be happy. My father left me more than money and an apartment. He left me a lesson that it's never too late to make things right. That love is stronger than death. And that the truth always finds its way. Sitting in my new apartment, in the arms of the man I loved, I thought about the strange path that brought me here, from the orphanage to an inheritance, from loneliness to love, from lies to truth. And I was grateful. For everything. For the pain that made me stronger. For the trials that taught me to fight. For the people who came into my life. And for my father, whom I never truly knew, but who gave me a chance at happiness, even in such a strange, tragic way. 5 years passed. 5 calm, happy years. I graduated from university with honors and opened a small legal practice focused on helping kids aging out of orphanages. Matt became a professor, wrote a book on the philosophy of law that turned into an academic bestseller. We got married a year after moving. A small wedding, just close friends. Frederick flew in from England to be my witness. Florence came in place of the parents I never had. Even Cassandra sent congratulations from London. Life settled into a steady, peaceful rhythm. We bought a house outside the city, got a dog, dreamed of children. It felt like all the darkness was finally behind us. But the past has a way of coming back. It started with a phone call. A regular Tuesday. I was working from home, going through documents for a new client. The phone rang, an unfamiliar number. Hello? Barbara Mercer? A man's voice, rough, with a slight accent. Yes, this is she. My name is Brad Hayes. I'm an attorney. I represent Lance Paxton. My heart skipped a beat. Lance. 5 years gone, and his name still made me shiver. Lance is in prison. Life sentence. Yes. But he has the right to appeal. And he wants to meet you. Why? He says he has information you might find interesting. About your father. I know everything I need. Lance killed my father for money. It's not that simple, Barbara. The story is much deeper. And Lance is ready to tell the truth, all of it. In exchange for your help. What kind of help? He wants a reduced sentence. And you're the only one who can help. As the victim's family, your statement carries weight. I laughed. Bitter, sharp. He killed my father and wants me to help him get out? That's absurd. Think about it. The information Lance has could change everything you think you know. About your father, his death, even the inheritance. I'm not interested. Not even if it concerns your mother? I froze. My mother? What could Lance possibly know about my mother? What do you mean? Come to the prison. Talk to Lance. Then decide. The lawyer gave me the address and the time. I hung up and sat there, staring at nothing. My mother. Lily Mercer. The student who supposedly died giving birth. What else could be hidden in this story? That evening, I told Matt about the call. Don't go, he said immediately. It's manipulation. Lance is trying to get out. What if he really knows something? What could he possibly know that would change anything? Your mother died in childbirth. That's a medical fact. Then why did he bring her up? Matt wrapped his arms around me. Because he knows that's your weak spot. You grew up without her, you don't know her. Any scrap of information about her is valuable to you. He's playing on that. Maybe. But I'm going anyway. I need to know. Matt sighed. I'll go with you. Only family and lawyers are allowed inside. Then I'll wait outside. The maximum security prison was 200 miles away. Gray walls, barbed wire, guard towers. A place where killers serve life sentences. Attorney Hayes met me at the gate. A man around 50, expensive suit, sharp eyes. Thank you for coming. Lance will be pleased. I'm not here to please him. I know. But hear him out. It's important. The visitation room was small, with a barred window. A table, 3 chairs, a camera on the ceiling. Lance was brought in 5 minutes later. He changed a lot in 5 years. Thinner, grayer, a tired look in his eyes. Hello, Barbara, he said, sitting across from me. Say what you came to say. I don't have much time. Lance leaned back in his chair. For 5 years I kept quiet. Took the blame. Got life. But there are things you need to know. For example, your mother didn't die in childbirth. What? The room tilted under me. Lily Mercer is alive. At least she was 5 years ago. You're lying. Why would I lie? I'm already at the bottom. It can't get worse for me. But the documents, the death certificate. Fake. Earl faked it all. Death certificate, hospital records. He had the connections and the money. He could do anything. Why would he do that? Lance leaned toward me. Because your mother went insane after giving birth. Postpartum psychosis. She tried to kill you. Several times. No. That's not true. Earl told me. Lily thought you were a demon. That you came to take her soul. She tried to smother you with a pillow until the nurse came in. Then she tried to throw you out the window. I covered my face with my hands. It was too much. Too frightening, too painful. Earl realized she was a danger to you. And he made a decision. Lily was sent to a secure psychiatric clinic. Officially declared dead. You were placed in the orphanage under another name. So she would never find you. Where is she? If she's alive, where is she? Lance pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket and handed it to the lawyer, who passed it to me. Hope Haven Psychiatric Clinic. Outside Denver. Patient, Chase, Lily. That's her maiden name. Chase? Like the notary? Coincidence? Or not? Why did you stay silent all these years? Lance shrugged. It was Earl's secret. I overheard it by accident. Didn't see any point in telling you. What difference does it make if your mother is dead or locked away in a clinic? And now you see a reason? Now I have nothing to lose. And I thought, you have the right to know. maybe you'll want to see her. In exchange for what? Lance smirked. You're smart. Yes, I want something in return. Not freedom, no. But a transfer to a lower security prison. To live the last years decently. You killed my father. Yes. And I regret it. Every day. Envy and greed blinded me. Earl was the best of us. I lived my whole life in his shadow. That's no excuse. Not an excuse. An explanation. I'm ready to pay the price. But I want to die under the open sky, not in a cell. I stood up. I need to think. Of course. But Barbara, if you go to see your mother, be careful. 20+ years in a psychiatric clinic don't leave someone unchanged. She may not recognize you. Or worse, recognize you and try again. Try again at what? To kill the demon who took her life. I left the prison with trembling hands. Matt was waiting in the car. What happened? You look pale. My mother is alive. What? I told him everything. About the psychosis, the attempted murders, the clinic. My God, Matt breathed. Is it true? I don't know. Lance gave the clinic's address. We can check. And you want to go there? I have to. She's my mother. If she's really alive. Barbara, this could be dangerous. If she really is mentally ill. I know. But I have to see her. At least once. We drove home in silence. Each of us lost in thought. I thought about a mother I had believed dead. Who might be alive and locked in a psychiatric clinic. Who had tried to kill me. At home, I began searching for information on Hope Haven. It existed, a private psychiatric facility for wealthy patients with chronic conditions. Closed, minimal public information. I called, claiming to be a relative. Hello. I'm looking for information about a patient, Lily Chase. I'm sorry, we don't provide information over the phone. Only in person, with documents proving your relation. Is she there? Is she alive? I cannot answer those questions. Come with documents. I hung up. So there was a chance Lance had told the truth. My mother might be alive. That evening, I called Florence. Sorry for calling so late. I have a strange question. Chase, is that your maiden name? No. Why do you ask? My mother, her maiden name was Chase. Lily Chase. You're not related? Florence was silent. Chase is a common name. But wait. Lily Chase? Oh my God. What? You knew her? If it's the Lily Chase I'm thinking of, she's my cousin. My mother's younger sister's daughter. But she died over 20 years ago. In childbirth. She's my mother. And maybe she's alive. What? How is that possible? I told her about the visit with Lance and what he'd said. A psychiatric clinic? Oh my God. If that's true, do you remember her? Barely. She was so young. A pretty girl, smart. She went to university, left for Phoenix. Then the news came that she died. My aunt never recovered. She died a year later of grief. Does she have any other relatives? No. My aunt's husband died earlier. Lily was an only child. If she's alive, my God, that changes everything. Florence, will you come with me? To the clinic? Of course. If it really is Lily, she's my blood. The next day we drove to Denver, Matt, Florence, and I. The trip took all day. We hardly spoke, everyone was thinking about the meeting ahead. Hope Haven was in the mountains, about 20 miles from the city. A large modern building surrounded by a high fence. A guard checked our documents at the gate, called someone, and after 10 minutes a man in a white coat appeared. Hello. I'm Dr. Coleman, the clinic director. You're here about Lily? Yes. I'm her daughter. The doctor looked at me closely. Daughter? But the records say she has no children. It's a long story. May I see her? I'm afraid it's not that simple. Lily is a severe case. She has chronic schizophrenia with delusions. She can be dangerous. I understand. But I need to see her. Even from a distance. The doctor considered it. All right. But only through the glass. And only briefly. Any stress can trigger an episode. He led us down a long corridor, the smell of medicines, hush, white walls. It looked like a regular hospital, but the atmosphere made you nervous. There, the doctor said, stopping at a door with a small window. She's in there. I went to the window and peered in. On the bed sat a woman, thin, with long gray hair, in a hospital gown. She rocked back and forth and muttered to herself. That her? My mother? Lily Chase. Patient since 1999. 24 years. She's been here 24 years. Florence pressed her face to the glass and stared. Oh my God. That really is Lily. Older, sick, but it's her. Are you sure? Yes. The same eyes, the same facial features. She's my cousin. May I go in? Talk to her? The doctor shook his head. That's dangerous. She's aggressive toward strangers, especially toward young women. Why? She has a fixed delusion. She believes a demon stole her child and entered him. That this demon will come for her. Any young woman she sees she mistakes for that demon. A demon. She thinks I'm a demon. Matt took my hand. Barbara, maybe we shouldn't. No. I have to try. I turned to the doctor. Please. 5 minutes. I'll be careful. The doctor steadied me for a long moment, then sighed. All right. But I'll be close, and the orderlies will be there. At the first sign of aggression, we'll intervene. He opened the door. I walked in slowly, making no sudden moves. The woman on the bed lifted her head and looked at me. Those were my eyes, looking at me with suspicion and fear. Who are you? She croaked. I am Barbara. She flinched and cowered into the corner of the bed. No. You can't be here. I killed you. I killed the demon. Mom, it's me, your daughter. No. I have no daughter. A demon took her. Replaced her. She grabbed a pillow and hugged it to her chest like a shield. Go away. Go away, demon. Mom, please, I'm not a demon. I'm Barbara. Your daughter. But she didn't hear me. She started screaming, thrashing, throwing whatever was at hand. The doctor and orderlies rushed in, restrained her, and gave an injection. She calmed, but she kept looking at me with horror and hatred. Demon, she kept whispering. The demon came. They led me out of the room. I was crying. My mother was alive, but lost to me forever. Don't blame yourself, the doctor said. This is illness. She can't control her thoughts. Has she always been like this? There are brief lucid moments sometimes, rarely. Minutes when she remembers her pre-illness life. But the delusions always return. What will happen to her? She'll stay here. We care for her and treat her as much as we can. Recovery is unlikely, she's been ill too long. Can I pay for her care? Improve her conditions? The doctor nodded. That would be good. State funding is minimal. With your help, we could provide her better care. We filled out the papers. I became the official guardian of my mother, the same woman who didn't recognize me and thought I was a demon. On the way back, Florence told stories about the young Lily, cheerful, smart, dreamy. She wanted to be a writer. Always creating stories, poems. She had talent. And then she met my father? Yes. She fell in love, and then came the news of her death, which never actually happened. Florence sighed. If we had known if Earl had told the truth, maybe we could have helped sooner. Or she would have killed me. Don't think like that. You're not to blame for her illness, but I felt guilty for being born, for shattering her mind, for her spending 24 years in a clinic. At home, Matt tried to comfort me. It's not your fault. Postpartum psychosis is a medical condition. No one's to blame. But if I hadn't been born, if you hadn't been born, I would have been alone. Forever alone. He held me, and I cried, crying for a mother I never had, a childhood I never lived, a family that was broken before it could exist. The next day I met with Lance's lawyer. He told the truth. My mother is alive. So you'll help with the transfer? I thought for a moment. Lance is a killer. But he gave me the truth about my mother, the last piece of the puzzle. I'll write to the parole board. Not to support his release, but to say I have no objection to a transfer to a lower security prison. Thank you. That means a lot to Lance. He killed my father. I don't forgive him. But he's still human. And he's entitled to a bit of mercy. Another year passed. I visited my mother regularly. She didn't recognize me, screamed, hid. But sometimes, very rarely, she had brief moments of clarity. One day I came, and she was sitting quietly, looking out the window. Barbara, she whispered as I entered. I froze. Yes, Mom. It's me. You've grown. Beautiful. Thank you. I'm sick, yes? I'm in a hospital? Yes, Mom. You're ill. I tried to kill you. I remember. Thought you weren't my daughter. That you were replaced? It's the illness, Mom. Not your fault. She reached out, touched my face. Her fingers trembled. I'm sorry. There's nothing to forgive. You're sick. Earl? Where's Earl? I couldn't tell her the truth, that my father was dead, killed by his own brother. He's busy. But he says hi. Okay. Tell him I love him. And I love you. My girl. I love you, Mom. She smiled, but the look soon turned cloudy, mad again. Who are you? What are you doing here? Go away. Demon. The moment of clarity passed. But it had existed. And it gave hope. The doctor said that such moments would become more frequent with continued treatment, new medications, therapy. The chances were slim, but they existed. I paid for the best treatment, the best doctors. And I waited. Waited for my mother to come back, if only for a few minutes, just to return. Lance was transferred to a lower security prison. He sent a letter of thanks, saying he worked in the library, read, and thought about his brother, life, and his mistakes. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But thank you for your mercy. You're better than all of us, stronger, kinder, wiser. Earl would have been proud. I didn't reply. There were no words. Lance was part of the past I had accepted but not forgiven. Frederick came for Christmas. We celebrated together, like a family, him, Matt, and me. We talked about the future, our plans. I want to move back here, he said. I'm tired of England. I want to be closer to family, to family. I had a family. We'd be happy, Matt said. There's room. Frederick smiled. By the way, when are you planning for children? I want to be an uncle. I blushed. Matt and I had been trying for a year, but so far without success. Doctors said everything was fine, it just needed time. Soon, I said vaguely. But soon stretched another year. I almost despaired when finally the test showed 2 lines. Matt spun me around the room, laughing and crying with joy. A baby. We're going to have a baby. Yes, I smiled through tears. We are. The pregnancy went smoothly. I kept working, visiting my mother. At 7 months, I brought her the ultrasound photo. Mom, I'm having a daughter. Your granddaughter. She stared at the image for a long time, focused. A baby, she finally said. A little baby. Yes, Mom. My daughter. Take care of her. Demons are everywhere. They want to take the children. I'll keep her safe, Mom. I promise. That day she was calmer than usual. She even smiled when I left. Lily was born in May. Small, wrinkled, beautiful. I named her after my mother, Lily. When I held her for the first time, I thought of my mom, who had once held me, who'd gone mad from love and fear, who had tried to protect me from demons not knowing they were in her own mind. I wouldn't tell Lily the truth about her grandmother. Not all of it. I'd say she was sick, that she couldn't visit. Maybe one day, when my daughter was grown, I'd tell her more. But not now. Matt was a wonderful father, gentle, caring, patient. He woke up at night, changed diapers, sang lullabies. She looks like you, he said. Same eyes. And like my mom. And my dad. Genes are a strange thing. Frederick flew in a week after the birth, bringing a mountain of gifts, toys, clothes. My niece. The most beautiful girl in the world. He played with Lily for hours, telling her stories, showing her pictures she couldn't yet understand. You know, he said one day, Dad would have been so happy. A granddaughter. The family goes on. Yes. I wish he'd lived to see this. But he's here, in a way. In you, in me, now in Lily. We're his legacy. Legacy. Not just money and an apartment. Genes, memories, a story. When Lily turned 6 months, I visited my mother again. I didn't bring the baby, too dangerous, but I showed her pictures. This is your granddaughter, Mom. Lily. My mother looked at the photos with a strange expression. Not mad, not scared. Thoughtful. Beautiful, she said. Like you as a child? You remember me as a child? Sometimes I remember. In dreams. A little girl with dark hair. Laughing. That's me, Mom. I know. But then the demons come and tell me it's not you. That the real daughter was taken. I'm here, Mom. The real one. Your daughter. She took my hand and squeezed it. Protect the little one. From the demons. They'll come for her. I'll keep her safe, Mom. That day she stayed calm for almost an hour, a record. The doctor said it was progress. Slow, but progress. Life went on. Lily grew, I went back to work, Matt wrote a new book. An ordinary life for an ordinary family. But sometimes, looking at my daughter, I thought about the strange chain of events. My father abandoned me out of fear. My mother lost her mind because of me. My uncle killed my father for money. And all of it led here, to me, with a loving husband and a beautiful daughter. Fate or coincidence? I don't know. But I'm grateful for it all. For the pain that taught me to value happiness. For the losses that taught me to cherish those who stayed. For the past that led to the present. When Lily turned 2, she said her first full sentence. Mommy, I love you. I burst into tears, from happiness, from pain, from everything at once. I hugged her, held her close. And I love you, sunshine. More than anything in the world. And I love Daddy. And Uncle Frederick. And Grandma. Grandma? She'd never met my mother. Matt had shown her a photo of Mom when she was young, beautiful, healthy. That's your Grandma Lily. She's sick and can't come. But she loves you. A little lie for a good reason. One day I'd tell her the truth. But not now. Lance died 3 years later. A heart attack. He sent a letter before his death. I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness. But I want you to know, I regret it. Every day, every minute. Earl was the best of us. And I gave in to the worst, envy and greed. Take care of yourself and your family. Be happy. For yourself, for your father, for your mother. For all of us who couldn't. Lance. I didn't cry. There were no tears left for the man who destroyed so many lives. But I felt a strange relief. The last tie to the dark past was gone. My mother lived another 5 years. The last year was almost good. A new medication worked. She recognized me, could hold a conversation, even smiled. A week before she died, she was especially clear. Barbara, I want to ask forgiveness. Mom, you don't have to. I do. I was a bad mother. I couldn't protect you. From myself. You were sick, Mom. It wasn't your fault. I know. But I still asked forgiveness. And I want to say, I love you. I always loved you. Even when the demons said otherwise. I know, Mom. And I love you. She died in her sleep. Peacefully, without pain. The doctor said she had simply grown tired of fighting. There weren't many people at the funeral. Me, Matt, Florence, Dr. Coleman, a few nurses. My mother hadn't had a life outside the clinic for the last 30 years. I laid white roses on her coffin, her favorite, Florence had told me. Goodbye, Mom. Thank you for my life. For the love you tried to give. Rest now. After the funeral, Florence handed me a box. This was in your aunt's old things. Photos, letters from Lily when she was at university. I thought you'd want them. At home, I went through the box. Photos of my mother as a child, a teenager, happy, healthy. Letters home, full of energy and plans. Poems she'd written. One poem was dated the day of my birth. A little star fell from the sky. Warm in my hand, it lies. Now she's mine, mine forever. I will guard her from the dark. But shadows press in, surround me. They want to take my star away. I won't let them. I'll protect her. Even at the cost of my life, my mind. She knew. She felt herself slipping. And still she wanted to protect me. In her own way, wrong and terrifying, but she wanted to. I showed the poem to Matt. She loved you. Madly. Literally. Yes. It's a shame that love turned destructive. But out of it grew another kind of love. Yours for me, for Lily. Mine for you. That's also an inheritance. I saved all of my mother's things. For Lily. One day she'd want to know about her grandmother. And I'd tell her. The whole truth. About love and madness, about loss and finding, about how even from the darkest story light can be born. 10 more years passed. Lily grew into a smart, beautiful girl, like me, like my mom, like all the women in our family. She got a little brother, Earl, named after his grandfather. Frederick got married and had twins. We gathered often, a big family I'd never had as a child. Florence passed away quietly in her sleep at 80. She worked and helped people until the very end. Cassandra came from England for the funeral. We hugged, 2 women tied by a strange story of love and death. Thank you, she said. For not turning your back on me. For believing. And thank you for the truth about my father. For the risk you took. We write each other sometimes. She got married and had a son. Named him Earl. Another Earl, in memory of the man who gave her a chance at real love. I kept working, helping kids from orphanages. I created the Earl Paxton Foundation. Not everyone approved, remembering the story of his death. But I believe he deserves to be remembered, not as a perfect man, but as someone who made mistakes, repented, and tried to make things right. Matt became the dean of the university. A wise, fair leader. The students love him. And he loves his work and his family. Sometimes I think about how strange life is. If my father hadn't abandoned me, I would have grown up a spoiled rich girl. If my mother hadn't lost her mind, maybe my father would have taken me. If Lance hadn't killed my father, there would have been no inheritance. If I hadn't searched for the truth, I wouldn't have met Matt. The chain of if only could go on forever. But it led me here, to this life, to this happiness. And I wouldn't change a thing. Yesterday Lily asked about our family history. A school project on a family tree. Mom, why do we have so few relatives? Because quality matters more than quantity, I smiled. And Grandma and Grandpa? Why didn't I know them? I hesitated. It was time to tell her. Not everything, but part of the truth. Your Grandpa Earl was a complicated man. He made mistakes when he was young, but he repented. He left us an inheritance, not just money, but a lesson. That it's never too late to make things right. And Grandma? Grandma was sick, Lily. A special kind of sickness that kept her from being with us. But she loved us. In her own way, as best she could. That's a sad story, Mom. Yes. But from it came a happy one. Ours, with you, with Dad, with Earl. Lily hugged me. I love you, Mom. And our story. Even if it's sad. I love you too, Sunshine. That night I couldn't sleep. I thought about the past, about everyone who had been part of my life. My father, who loved me but couldn't stay. My mother, whose love turned into madness. Lance, whose envy led to murder. Cassandra, who found love in the wrong place. Florence, who became like family. Matt, who brought me back to life. All of them, part of my story. Part of me. And I carry them forward, in my children, in my work, in my life. In the morning I woke up to the smell of coffee. Matt was already up, making breakfast. The kids were still asleep. An ordinary morning for an ordinary family. I went to the window and looked at the waking city. Somewhere out there was the orphanage where I spent 18 years. Somewhere the house where my father had lived. Somewhere the clinic where my mother had died. Somewhere the prison where Lance had died. The past. It hasn't gone anywhere, it lives inside me. But it doesn't define me. I am more than a sum of tragedies. I am a beloved wife, a loving mother, a successful lawyer, a good friend. I am Barbara Mansker, née Mercer, actually Paxton. The daughter of a murdered father and a mother lost to madness. The heir to millions and to misfortune. A graduate of Orphanage number 7. And I am happy. Matt wrapped his arms around me from behind. What are you thinking about? How strangely life has unfolded. And how lucky it turned out exactly like this. He kissed my neck. Life is a strange thing. You never know where it will lead. The important thing is who it leads you to. With you, even to the ends of the earth. No need for the ends of the earth. We're fine right here. We stood at the window, holding each other, greeting the new day. An ordinary day in our extraordinary life. A life that began in tragedy but led to happiness. A life for which I am grateful to everyone, who was, who is, and who will be. Mom. Earl's voice called out. I'm hungry. Coming, Sunshine. I went to the kids, to feed them, dress them, get them ready for school. Ordinary tasks of an ordinary mother. And it was wonderful. On my desk lay a folder. A new case. A girl from an orphanage who unexpectedly inherited from an unknown relative. The story repeats itself, but each time in a new way. I would help her. Tell her my story. Warn her about the pitfalls. Support her in difficult moments. Because I know what it's like. To be nobody and become somebody. To lose everything and gain more. That is my inheritance, not money, not property, but experience, knowledge, the ability to turn pain into strength, tragedy into a lesson, the past into the foundation for the future. I sat at the desk and opened the folder. A new story was beginning. And I was ready to help write its happy ending. Because I know they are possible. Even after the darkest beginnings. especially after the darkest beginnings. The phone rang. It was the orphanage. Barbara? We have a girl here. She just turned 18. Yesterday she received a letter from a notary about an inheritance. She's in shock, doesn't know what to do. Could you? Of course. Bring her to me. Thank you. You're like a guardian angel to our children. I'm not an angel. Just someone who remembers what it's like. I hung up and smiled. A new story, a new life, a new chance to help. The circle closes and begins again. And it should be that way. Because inheritance isn't what we receive. It's what we pass on.